I'm the board chair of North Wasco in District 21. This is my friend David Coley, he's my vice chair. So welcome, this is our training, and Vince Adams is our trainer. And so thank you for coming to our very compressed board retreat. Appreciate it very much. I will read a quote, although it's not the one I had hoped for. This is an Abraham Lincoln quote, perhaps you know the full quote. A child is a person who is going to carry on what you have started. And then there's a series of things. He's going to run our schools. He's going to run our institutions. He's going to run our churches. The fate of humanity is in his hands. And so I have that actually on my computer at home, just to remind me that I am transient and that we have to make investments in the future and understand that we will be replaced by these little tyrants.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
So, Chair Peggy, Superintendent Bernal, North Wasco Board and staff, thank you for having me back. And so it's good to be back with folks. For those of you who don't know me, hi, my name is Vince. I'm the Board Development Specialist. You probably are already picking up by my demeanor that I'm a very informal presenter. This is what you see is what you get. A little bit about me. I grew up in a small town. Does anybody know where Winchester Bay, Oregon is?
Oh my God, you grew up there?
Yeah.
My dad's from there. My dad's family's from there.
Okay, what's your dad's family?
Earls?
I don't know the Earls.
They all passed away.
Small town. That's why you ask the family names. It's like that. So, I grew up in Winchester Bay and graduated in 1987 from Reedsport High School. You know what? When going to school, I was not a great student. I graduated with like 2.8 GPA, and my highest and greatest scope when I was like a junior was to be a trucker setter. Because back then, you could be a trucker setter and raise a family and do that work. You'll hear me talk more about that and the implications of that for education today. But I went in the Navy, was a sonar technician, was forward deployed, tours, came back, thought for sure I wanted to be a firefighter. Really fell in love with firefighting in the Navy and wanted to do that. Ended up just working on ambulances. Did that for 6 years as a paramedic in Coos Bay, Oregon. Threw that career away and went to Bend ended up managing an event rental company. One of the most stressful jobs I've ever done. Because you only get one chance to screw up someone's wedding. I mean, seriously, and we did a lot of it. So I pitched that job and got hired back. The fellow who owned the ambulance company had a medical supply company that was not doing well. He hired me back to breathe new life into that business. Did that. Fell into a fit of depression. So, renting hospital beds and selling urinals was not something that I really enjoyed doing. No, nothing against that work, and those products are deeply important for us, but it didn't speak to me. My wife asked me, if you could do anything and money wasn't an object, what would you do? And I never thought that way before. I ruminated on that. I got this crazy idea in my head, and I came back and I said, I want to be a whale biologist. I want to be in a Zodiac, cruising across the ocean, tagging whales. What it really told me is that I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to study science. I was really curious about that. I was really curious about systems, and actually went back to school to do that. So I got a transfer degree in biology, went to Oregon State. I was finishing my undergrad in environmental science. I got an honors degree in environmental science at Oregon State. I was working in the ecology lab and just working with folks that were studying systems in decline. They were studying species that were going extinct. And I realized that we don't have environmental problems. The environment has people problems. A lot of our problems are based on decisions that humans make. And so I got a degree in public policy. Not surprisingly, resource economics was a big component of that. I studied timber county payments and how counties spend their money with those grant funds, secure rural schools, dollars. we would have to get a beer to talk about that because I have strong feelings on that subject. Anyway,
I would love to know.
that landed me a job in extension. I spent 10 years with OSU Extension, and I ended up directing the Rural Communities Explorer. It's an online resource that provided demographic, social, and economic indicators for all communities in Oregon. You know, and you can search it by name. Really revolutionary in 2010, not so revolutionary today. But if you've ever seen the report, Oregon by the Numbers, from Ford Family Foundation, I see some nodding heads. That was from one of the products that we did in collaboration. That was my office that did that. So I worked with municipal and county governments, nonprofit folks doing strategic planning. But in 2013, I got myself elected to the Corvallis School Board. I spent 10 years on that. I chaired it for a couple of years. And so I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. We've made all the mistakes that a board can make, most of them. And so that led me to this work. In 2020, it was April 1st of 2020. They hired me at work. You all chuckled. You remember what we were doing. And they offered me this great office. It's beautiful. Floor to ceiling window looking at the Salem Island. You can see the Golden Pioneer from my office. It was 2 years before I worked with them. Anyway, I'm really passionate about board work. I'm really passionate about how boards can impact students and impact their school districts. So I'm really above this, the training that we're going to do tonight. It's really exciting. Some of it is, board, you are getting a real gift tonight because the superintendent is organized to have a large cross-section of your staff to sit with you tonight and work through some scenarios. And it's a real gift to get that face-to-face interaction with staff. It's so much business. For those of you who are staff that are making time to be here, thank you. Because it really matters. It really is a rich experience for you. Okay, wow. I have an introduction slide. We're going to go really, really quick, and I'm going to be strict on time because we have a lot of content to cover. So I'm going to. See, so much for stunning you. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to start here. I need a name. Let's go to high school. Tell us why you're on the board. For staff members, I want to know why you do what you do. Especially if you work in this building, because if you work in stinky middle schools, why do you do that? Anyway, and then favorite thing to eat, good or eat in the fall.
Okay, I'm Daniel College. I went to 4 different high schools.
Oh my goodness.
But the one I graduated from was Sports Ridge Private School in Washington. We owe our kids more than just math. We owe them education, we owe them future, we owe them more. If you're thinking of putting me in the fall, say it's your daughter-in-law's.
Dave Jones, School in Hood River. I love the work. I tons of work because of the bond and athletics, and I get consulted.
All is good.
Yeah.
I'm Sandra Harris, and I am a product of Glencoe High School, Crimson Tide, Hillsborough, 1986, 0-14. Anyway, here, feel like this, 0-14 football all the way. We're on state.
No bragging.
I was supposed to be 7, but 86 was my football.
Yeah. It's extra.
Yeah, and as far as, I started my career in 1991, a middle school math teacher. 30 years later, I was in middle school all the way through. So middle school is my jam. Loved it. Stinky or not, I just loved that. And I think why am I an HR director? Because I've had 30 years of middle schoolers and of middle school parents that, cried when they dropped them off and were exuberant when they went to high school and they grew up. And, I told them, they'll get better. They'll grow up. Give it a couple of years. They'll be fine. And they were. So, anyway, I just love working with people. I love, people are people. And, we all make mistakes and we can all grow from our mistakes. And we can also work together to for the better good of all of our kids. So, just really passionate about that. Favorite thing to eat in the fall is probably, I love good chili. Good chili.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm CJ Toole. I'm the Director of Prevention and Intervention. I graduated from Bedell's High School in 1991. And so what brings me to this work, this is my third year in this position. This is the start of my 11th year in education. And I've done 31 years in what I call the helping industries. But it's always been focused on kids, particularly kids with challenges and struggles, and try to make things better for them in their lives and give them better opportunities. My favorite thing to cook in the fall is so easy because it's crackers, cheese, and meat while I watch football.
What about football?
Oh,
It's the perfect meal.
Nice.
And you're sacrificing football.
I mean, yeah, I don't know
Oh,
what's
Well, let's
man.
talk about that. Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Senator Newton, and I am new to the district-ish. I came back. I graduated from Colton High School.
Oh, okay.
Walking community, we were talking.
Yeah.
Colton Small. Why am I in I'm the coordinator of intensive program. This is my first year out of the classroom. And I started in '92, so I've been doing it a while. And I love teaching, and I found myself in spots where I was mentoring a lot of younger teachers and felt like I could help support them in a lot of ways. And so I think it's great experiences. I'm a big optimist and hope and have kind of a hard growing up, and so teachers were my lifeline, and so I always think back to how can I change even just one little person's life, make them feel good, and I'm a lifelong learner, so this career is amazing. I've loved every bit of it. Favorite thing, I'm a soup and cornbread girl in the fall. I have lots of different favorite ones, but definitely soup and cornbread.
Awesome. All right. Sure.
Good evening, David Pauline. I went to school at Dallas, graduated in '02. I'm on the school board because I had an extra $10 for the registration.
Come on.
No. So, but in reality, I plan on staying here for the foreseeable future and want to make a difference in the community and help shape the future for my kids as kids. Favorite thing to eat in the fall, pork loaf sandwiches.
All right. I was waiting for someone to say barbecue.
Pretty good. I'm Betsy Hagee, class of '82, Joel E. Sarris High School in Spokane. No reason. So I went to high school. It was a good experience. Why I'm on the board? Weak moment, yes, $10. But I was accused by a family member of being a bit of an activist. And it's like, that's a really rough label. But as I've lived in the Dallas since '91, I've done primarily nonprofit work, and boards and whatnot, and a lot of fundraising. And it was always to better the community. And so I started hearing quite a bit about this. I was never attracted to the idea of doing a school board. And, but I just kept hearing so many things that were like, oh, it's all bad, it's all wrong. Oh, it's like, what is going on there? And so in a way, it was to say, okay, something needs fixed. Let's dive in. And whether there's exceptions, whatever, we'll probably talk about some of them today. To try to figure that out and try to bring something constructive, positive, and going in the right direction. So, yeah. Favorite thing, I look forward to the butternut squash season.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hey everyone, Jose Aparicio. I went to Umatilla High School out in Umatilla, Oregon. And why I'm on the board is both my wife and I are products of public school and we believe in it. And kind of a weak moment where the oldest was about to get into kindergarten. I filled out an application, paid $10, but in all seriousness, we're definitely wanting to be involved with the family. This is what we're calling home for our kiddos. We now have our youngest starting kindergarten actually this year. And so we're really looking forward to just a great experience through public school and beyond. So definitely have, I guess, as you've called, skin in the game. I got both kiddos in classrooms in D21. And then favorite thing, similar, I think earlier, it reminds me of football, so chips and dip, like nothing like a good homemade guacamole, not store-bought, but all the ingredients and make it definitely makes for a good football viewing experience.
I'm Stephanie Bowen. I'm the communications director for the school district. I am a proud graduate of the Dallas-Watonka High School. A little lapse in our judgment there or something. Why I work here. So a little bit kind of what Betsy was saying. So I was born and raised here. I'm deeply committed to this community. I've sat on a number of boards, nonprofits, done pretty much everything under the sun in this community, and I'm deeply committed to it. And in 2020, I was the PIO of the local hospital, which was a rough gig. I was also pregnant with my second child, so there was a lot of hormones going on. And somebody sent me this job posting, and I felt deeply connected to it. And I was like, this is a job that I can like really make a difference in. Because I was born in, I heard, even as a kid, you hear like, oh, you know, the district is doing this, the district is doing that, and all the wrong things. And maybe it's some white savior mentality I have going on that I need to deal with. But I was like, I can make a difference. This is going to be the job for me. And lo and behold, they bought into it and hired me. So here I am. And my favorite thing to eat, if you know me at all, you know my favorite thing to eat is everything. Except for anything with coconut. So, yeah, that's it.
Hi, Vince. I'm Katie Kelly. I grew up in the Dalles. I graduated from the Dalles. I'm not going to tell you when I graduated, though.
It's not one of the prompts. I've been watching.
I know. It was freely disclosed, and I'm going to put an end to that right now. So, my favorite thing to cook and eat, I have two things. A butternut squash curry soup, so good, and Tex-Mex chili, filled with venison that my husband or son fills my freezer with. Very, very, very delicious. Why I'm on the board. So kind of a combination of what you've already heard, some personal experiences that I had with my own children that I would have liked better outcomes, different outcomes, just something different, along with a lot of chatter and perception. And I thought, well, I think I have some critical thinking skills and some experience that could potentially help. So I paid the $10. Yeah.
Awesome.
My name is Kevin Kramer. I'm a graduate of the Dallas High School in 1973. It was a while ago.
Yesterday.
Good music.
And I had her in class. And I think CJ, I ruined you too. So, why am I on the board? Well, I was a teacher for 37 years, and I coached for 40, several different sports. And I've seen kids want to win. They want to work hard. Sometimes they have to be motivated a little bit. But I think they want success. And so maybe I might have something to contribute in that regard. My favorite food? I don't know. I got into trouble on this board because I think it was a shot of scotch that got me. Lubricated my mouth, killed a few brain cells, so probably I'll stick with that.
Okay, shot of scotch, okay. All right.
All right, Dan Peterson, I'm the CFO. I graduated from Crawford High School in San Diego, California,
All right.
1983. I'll just go ahead and say it.
If you have to be from Southern California, that's a great town.
It's a good place to be from. Yeah.
I've been back there in years, but anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I am working for the district because it's a great opportunity to give to the community and help. I want to leave the district healthier than I found it financially. And I'm also thrilled with the opportunity to work with a bunch of incredibly smart, dedicated, knowledgeable, hardworking people. It's an absolute honor. And a couple things I like to cook in the fall, opposite ends of the spectrum. I can set up my Traeger so the brisket starts smoking at 3 o'clock in the morning
Right now.
while I'm still in bed. And I also make a pretty killer kabocha squash and lentil soup.
I'm really feeling this. Even though it's not.
Once it's built.
Okay, Carolyn, you're not.
Carolyn, I went to high school at Camarillo High School in Camarillo, California, just like Ventura County, so it's about an hour north of LA and about an hour south of Florida. I come from a very long line of people in my family. However, I was not studying to be an educator. I was studying to be a fashion designer. And then had a very unique opportunity through my church at the time to travel down to Mexico and build houses for people without homes. And then in the evenings would play soccer with all the children out in like the dirt fields, and having the opportunity just to connect with many of the children down there, which really changed my trajectory. And I decided right then and there that I was meant to work with kids and serve the children. So that's why I'm here, and especially to serve underserved populations that don't always have a voice and who can't always access education in the way that more privileged kids can. So being that voice for them and helping remove barriers for them so that they can access education, because it's super important. And my favorite thing to cook or eat in the fall is anything in a crock pot. Turn it on in the morning, it's ready.
So I'm Amy Hampton. I'm the Director of Student Services here for North Wasco Community School District. I graduated from Cimarron Memorial High School in Las Vegas, Nevada. And when I graduated from high school, I thought I was going to be a nurse, which everyone who knew me kind of laughed because they're like, you wanted to be a teacher since you were itty bitty. I started hating school. I was a kid who cried so hard that they threw up every day in first grade. And my teacher told me to turn my life around, and then my second grade, I had notes from tutoring other kids, from their parents. So I started out in nursing and then realized I could work with old people and I don't like old people. And so I went back to education. And then within my first couple of classes, I found out that there would be kids with disabilities in our classes. And my university happened to have a dual degree program with elementary and special education. And my whole intent was, well, if they're going to be in my class, I should feel as much about them as possible. And so I ended up getting a dual degree in elementary and special education, and never expected to teach special education. But if anyone knows anything about education, it's a heck of a lot easier to do a STEM job than it is to do a regular ed job. And so the first opportunity I had was to be a special ed teacher, and I absolutely fell in love with it.
And I adore the fact that I have kids from year to year and I get to work with their families. I get to work with every teacher in the building. I get to work with small groups. I get to work on every subject area. I would like to teach something beyond multiplication at some point in my life. But and I did that, and when I moved here to the Dalles, and I kind of ended up having the role here of if there's a weird thing that needs to be done in special education, he needs the person to do it. And so I worked in Mosier, I ran the middle school behavioral program, I ran a self-contained program at Dry Hollow, I worked with our alternative programs and our kids in our juvenile detention facility. I created our transition program, and when COVID hit, there were some decisions being made that I didn't like, and I realized I had no voice at the table. And the only way I'd have a voice is if I was going to go into administration, which had never been in my thought process. And so I started my admin program while we were home for COVID, and a year into that, my director called me and said, I just resigned, and I think you should take my job. And it was definitely a 5 to 10 year plan, not a 5-minute plan. And so instead of going from having 4 programs I was running, I was so excited to just run transition for a year, and instead I took over our entire department of 450 kids, and that had a leadership change in the entire time I worked here. And so it's been a very difficult. Luckily, and for me, I really wasn't sure if I was ready to step into the leadership role, but I also knew the history that I had here. There's so much, as many of you that have lived in the Dalles for so long, there's a lot about the Dalles that you have to understand to make things work. And I knew that nobody could step in and do it. So I sucked it up and did it, and I'm super excited. I also spent the last 2 days teaching in a classroom, which has been great because I have a chance to connect with our kids again. In the fall, Dr. Bernal, I was agreed it's crockpot, but just the whole Thanksgiving dinner, I just love making Thanksgiving dinner and then all the leftovers afterwards, and sandwiches the next day, and eating apple pie for breakfast, and yeah.
I went to 3 high schools, graduated from Frankfurt International School in Germany, and traveled all over the world my entire life. Have done many jobs, and most of them were all customer service related. And I fell into a job as secretary at St. Mary's Academy for 7 years, and then this one opened up secretary in the district office, and we've been there, and now executive assistant and board secretary. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I love crockpot stuff, chili stuff, snacks, and crackers in my football games, pretty much everything.
So I just wasted half an hour of our time.
I'm all hungry.
Yeah.
I mean, we're ready for potluck.
Yeah.
Why do you think I did this?
Building a sense of community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Supposed to answer?
It's also diagnostic. What did we hear? What were the themes?
Service to others.
Say it again?
Service to others.
Yeah, sense of service. You bet. What else?
Making a difference.
Yeah, and leaving something behind.
Even hope, like amongst everybody, kind of the same kind of values that you just said, like we all hope for a better future for kids, and
Yeah. Goodness gracious, a strong sense of hope. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot. I shared a lot. Some of you guys don't do. I heard a lot about kids. I mean, this group definitely centers kids. It's definitely the first thing I'm looking for. Anything else?
It feels like we all have a decent sense of our why, which is something that I think is really powerful. If you know why you're doing something, it makes hard days worth it.
And I guarantee you the hard days are going to come. You guys are doing one of the hardest things out there. And it's not if, it's when tough stuff is going to come. Board members, you know Tough stuff is gonna come. That's why you got elected, was to face the hardest questions. If it were all easy questions, or if we get this done with one executive, we would. It would be a heck of a lot more efficient. So that's why we have boards, is to deal with really thorny, hard, difficult problems. Okay? So having connections is really important. It's a big theme that's going to go through our whole. So if this was fun, great, because we're going to do a little bit more. We're going to do an activity. Get something right with this. We're going to find out what your leadership superpowers are. My colleague Janet, Evan Medina, came up with this, and it's super fun. It's super simple. You have to think of what your leadership superpower is, write it down, and then the hard part is figure out what your superhero name is. It is okay to use your AI account if you'd like. I have had Hortz do that. I do as well.
Thank you.
But only if your account really knows what.
Let me see. Surely I have.
Go ahead and take a few minutes. When I see pens down, then I'll know you've been. We're gonna go around and share. How to find one. I did one too. I gotta find it. Catch up. CFO is already. You got a name? No pressure. No pressure in this space. This is supposed to be fun. There's plenty in board work that isn't fun, so let's try to And those of you that are nervous about this activity, we'll be doing trust falls here in just a little bit. But you got to, look, I mean, I'm even wearing Pace socks. I mean, Pace would never have let me do trust falls. You have nervous, yeah, come on over. Let's make more room. I got more cheese.
I love it.
How we doing? I see people looking at their phones. It's not pens down anymore. It's if you're looking at your phone.
That's what I'm looking for, yeah, I was looking for synonyms too.
Oh, okay.
For synonyms. Yeah.
I'm telling you, throw it into chat.
That's
Works
right.
great. That's what I did. It was like.
Had a lot of good suggestions.
I have a loose horse at home, so
Yeah.
that's the technique.
Another cool prompt for ChatGPT is, based on everything you know about me, write or create a picture that reflects everything you know about me. It's like, it's.
Tell me something you think I don't know about myself.
Tell me something I think.
That you don't know about yourself, that you should, that I should know about myself.
Oh, you've done that?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
A lot of stuff. I felt like it was had good direction. Maybe there's some stuff.
How much do you
What do you think, Kelly? Sounds like yourself.
You're ready. Looks like, oh, people are so, no, you guys are done. Are we done? Are we good? You're early. Okay, you're ready. Okay, then we'll start over here. Well, no, who's courageous? Because, I mean, we're being serious. I'm asking you to be vulnerable. She's picking on you, Kevin.
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
That is also my superhero, is that I will go first. Anyways, I just call myself Chair Ninja. I am good at running meetings and always gravitate to that chair position for that reason. Yeah, and I think that takes a certain amount of staying calm under pressure, empathy for the people you're meeting with about, and a certain level of mediation skill and whatnot.
And thank you for doing that. I love people who really good meeting. It just relaxes me, and you can just sit back and focus on the work that someone else facilitated. It's
I
great.
hope I haven't set the bar too high for myself.
No problem. Let's go next.
Call myself questioning, because I'm to ask a question. And I do it because I need to understand the who, what, why, and what.
Love it. The questionator. Love it. Great.
I'll go.
Yeah.
Name was the regulator. His superpower is staying calm under pressure, and the way it helps us roll is the ability to listen without letting emotions take over and just kind of keeping that same presence.
That's great.
There's always high charged moments as board members.
Great. Good stuff.
I'm very creative, but
That's okay.
empathic mediator.
Yeah.
Just managing conflicts with empathy and understanding. So it helps, because it avoids bringing shame to others who are in conflict or an investigator under investigation. So it's that clear listening, that active listening, clarifying, just understanding that nobody wants to be in positions in conflict with themselves or somebody or with something. I said the helpful hobbyist because I really like to make gifts for other people, but I'm also the person who, like, if you need me to do something, I'm there. Whatever needs to get done, I just am ready to jump in with both feet, and if that means I work until 11 o'clock, making sure all of your materials are prepared for tomorrow, or if I go to the store and pick up stuff, or if I make sure, that's my role. And so, I like to make others feel appreciated, and it also allows me to use my gift of craftiness to, make my staff feel appreciated. And I know how hard my staff's job is and all the jobs that we do, and if I can do anything to leave a little bit of that for them, and so that then tomorrow their life and they're able to do things more successfully, and it's worth it for me to have given of myself to do that.
Amazing, that's great. And for the type of work you do, it's like a magic wand.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So my superhero name is Captain Calm, the Integrator. And I think my superpowers are seeing systems. And somebody has to keep an even keel. And lighten the mood once in a while with a well-placed joke. And how this helps me in my role is that there's really no shortage of inputs. There's no shortage of needs, there's no shortage of requirements, and there's no shortage of pressures. So someone has to stay calm.
Right. Yeah. Hey, let's go back to it.
My superhero name is Captain Connector. My superpower is building community connections. And when I think of communities, I think of like in the classroom, when I was a classroom teacher, I had really close relationships with all of my students and their families. And with the staff and then people in districts, so bringing people into circles, making them feel like a part of things is something I'm really good at, and often making sure is people who often aren't at people, how do I include them? I think about when I taught at Turner, I had a group of mamas that sat in the back of my classroom, we didn't speak English, but they wanted to learn English, so I would give them projects. And they would sit and listen to me speak English, and then they would say, I'm learning so much from you. And I was like, you can come every day, because I have things to do, and they would work so hard, but you should work part of that volunteer game. So it was super fun, and they loved it, and they felt appreciated. So, good.
Fabulous. Thank you. Who has another?
I'm done. I think CJ might be my long lost brother. I'm Captain Chill. My superpower is underreacting. And it helps me in my role because overreacting never helps. There's a quote that I read a long time ago that really had a big impact on me. I can't remember exactly who said it, but it's between stimulus and response. For animals, there's a stimulus and there's a response, but for humans, there's an instant in there, and you can use that instant to choose, and that's where you decide who you're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I totally lost track of the group.
Okay. My superhero name is Zenith.
Okay.
My superpowers are staying calm under pressure and seeing the big picture.
Thanks.
So reaching the highest point of a sense of calm, seeing the whole battlefield, staying unshaken in the chaos, and choosing the best course of action.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, who is it? I know he's still concentrated.
I haven't gone. I can go. But you guys are going to think I have a complex. So mine, I put Proton Princess. And I promise I don't really think I'm a princess, but I wanted something that rhymed with proton. And proton, because protons have a what charge? Positive charge. And we always stay centered in our nucleus. So my strengths and how that helps me in my role is to stay positive. And even then when the world feels extremely negative, seeing the good, being the good, knowing my purpose and promoting that purpose.
And also being wildly creative.
And also being a princess and being the yin to CJ's yang and eating the other half of his Twix bar. So.
Okay. Is there anybody else?
Solar Titan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My superpower is turning ideas into action. And that helps with the role of making the rubber hit the road, even if it's a just in policy or governance.
Nice. Nice. That would be really helpful. Okay. Anybody else?
I'm just doing on the sheet, I think, I feel like, it's in my role in school, learn, I think also things that all things that want to have strengths.
Sure.
Some of them just really tough moments, I think something I'm trying to less of than flats, real things. I think it's a good job of staying calm and pressure. Something that trying to add.
Great. Did I miss anyone?
Miss.
Oh, yeah.
Just be a listener, because these people, some of the men, or find out what they can and can't do to let them build up.
Yeah, sure, sure.
As long as it's not really something bad.
Okay. And I think,
Quiet communicator,
yeah.
basically active listeners are superpower.
Introvert.
I think if I make a connection, as I listen, I can empathize, I can take everything in and help everyone.
And I'll just say for introverts, thank you for being courageous in this space. I know it's a big room. I know you're gonna come out of this exhausted. Thank you for pushing through. Okay, themes. Real quick and then we'll keep moving.
A lot of calm people.
Yeah.
A lot of calm.
Chilling, calm. But then there was still a sprinkling of
Yes.
positivity and
Positivity. I think we're in a room,
inquiry and curiosity.
it's half the room is educators. So you're gonna get a lot of calming, positive, people in that approach kind of crap. So that's good. I'm glad that we're getting that.
That just makes me laugh because the last word I heard anyone use to describe me is calm. So it just makes me laugh.
It's great calm.
Yeah.
Other things. Doers. There were a couple doers.
Listeners,
yeah.
Listeners, yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. Actually, if you aggregate this, just they all find their way in the page. I will grab those and what I'll do is I'll put the group. I'll aggregate them together.
Do you want our names?
Yeah. Do I? Yeah, if you put your name on it, yeah. Go ahead, put your name on it, and then that'll help us differentiate from students. All right, let's do some board work. So staff, I'm gonna have you guys just observe for a little bit. This is time for board to like. So board self-assessment is a real key component of the work that I do as a consultant with HBA. I work with boards all over the state, and so we have a very rigorous tool for doing that. This is not that. This is quick and dirty board self-assessment. So you guys have been on the job, folks that are new to the board, you've been on the job for just, a couple months now. But you ran campaigns, last year and into the beginning of this year. Beginning of this year. Get elected, so you should have been paying close attention to what the board was doing. You read minutes, and you talked to a bunch of people. So you have insight here. So really, I want you to just kind of, I have instructions. Board members, I want you to take a few minutes. I want you to just think to yourselves, what are the board's key strengths? And what are their areas of growth, or your areas of growth that you have? And then, because I've got such a diverse room, normally I put you in pairs. I think we'll just report out and capture what we have. That seem reasonable? Okay, so take a couple minutes, jot down as many as you can, but then prioritize. Okay, ready, set, go. I put a timer. Staff, you want to get up and walk around? I found the ball fill station back in the hall by the gym. And I also found the restroom. It's right behind the office.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a timer for 4 minutes.
What does it mean by board's top area? What,
Yes, sir.
the board's top areas of growth.
You mean like opportunities?
Yeah, that's what we're gonna identify. What are the board's strengths? What do you guys have as a group? And then what are your areas of growth? We're gonna jot those down just right now. So what do you gotta learn?
Like, what do we need to work on?
Yes, what do you need to work on? Or weaknesses, if you want to think about it that way. Try not to, I always try to think.
Trying to be positive.
Try to be positive. I mean, you have 4 new members, right?
Correct.
I mean, the first one, very young board, you got 4 new members. I try to give kudos. Coming up on 1 minute, 30 seconds. You're done. You're done. That's it. That's you get to go.
Checking out
I
our
mean,
horse situation.
Yeah, you got stuff? Okay, then I'm just gonna pause. And, okay, let's start working on strength. Top strength.
Oh, I have new perspective.
Say new perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Diverse thoughts and experiences.
Yeah. How about diverse perspectives? Would that
Yeah,
work?
would be a good one.
Did anybody else have that?
I have that.
I had that.
So if we have multiple, if that came up, we can put asterisk on.
motivated new group, like,
Motivated new blood.
yeah.
Or motivated old blood. I mean, if we're all the local, if you guys are all the local.
That's the next strength. Ready, Vince? You done with that one?
Yep.
Okay, next one is that of the 4 new folks and the other folks, there's credibility, there's some level of credibility for the board members bringing that to the board. You got, Kevin, who's been here in the Dallas as a community investment person. Katie's been here for years. Got a Pauline.
So the new members have credibility.
Yes, let's say that. Let's pretend that's true.
It's in long-term local.
And anybody can comment that that's not, and that's fair.
Community, growing community credibility, that's what. Yeah, that I think.
Sure.
And if I don't do something right, then
No worries.
thoughts here.
Any more?
And more weaknesses than strengths.
What else do you got?
Meeting engagement. So most everyone's asking questions and discussing.
Nice to each other. Last week, we had a board member in Oregon sling their nameplate across the table and walked out every time.
Where? When? Come on. Where are nameplates, Vince? Come on.
Wow.
I would say a desire to collaborate.
It wasn't us. How about that?
Yeah.
Are you guys nice to each other?
Yes.
I'd say that's a true statement. But
I would agree.
Yeah.
Desire to collaborate.
Mutual respect.
Sure.
There's no aggravated assault.
Required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a mic drop, I guess.
Did you see this article? Oh my gosh.
As a consultant, I call it as I see it. I don't gloss a lot. So, I mean, if I was sensing hostility, I'd probably be a lot of eggshell. I'm not sensing that. So, what else?
Desire to collaborate, I think. Is that a thing?
Yeah? Can we desire to collaborate? I don't know. I think that was great. Desire to collaborate. Okay. How do you feel about that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Desire to collaborate.
Yeah, we're in a group, so I would say, yeah, we need to, I think we've shown great collaboration thus far, but I think it's still something to continue to
I also
grow.
have that in my growth column. So I think you show up with a desire to collaborate and an ability or a certain, it takes a certain level of maturity to collaborate, right? So you show up. So I would say maybe we have a professional on the board that can collaborate, but then I also had it in my growth column because you have to learn to collaborate together, and primarily it came out as building trust with each other and staff. Because that's the growth area, building trust with each other and staff.
Okay. With trust. Open here up around again. Yeah. Trust. Okay.
Under the strengths, something along the lines of like willingness to share information. So where I'm coming from with this is at the OSBA summer conference, and I was sitting with Jose, and I had a lot of questions because I'm a newbie.
Sure.
And he is not, and he was just an open book and so willing to help me understand and explain things to me that I wasn't quite sure on, or how it impacted or applied to our district, and I really appreciated that.
Willingness to share, I was going to say, knowledge and wisdom, but I don't know if that's like.
Yeah, I mean, like you could say it in so
Lack
many
thereof.
different ways, and it seems so kind of
Mentorish.
naive, but I don't know.
Mentorship? Yeah.
Yeah,
mentorship.
yeah,
Willingness to mentor.
Yeah.
Sure.
not everybody is. Some people will just keep things close to the vest, you know?
Does that feel?
Yeah,
does
I think that's great.
mentor?
That's nice. On the growth side, the new board has a lot to learn about the environment, the education environment, the issues, roles, and it's our own district.
K-12 education. Yeah.
I would expand it and say it's not only K-12, but our district specifically.
Yeah. Local challenges.
Yeah.
I think one of our opportunities will be just getting consensus around our priorities. And I think like maybe that's part of why we're here today, but I think that's probably one of the more important things.
Okay. Okay. Oh my goodness. There's a giant cat going.
One of areas for growth is like generally we're new, so we need more experience.
More PD,
Yeah, more.
professional development.
Yeah.
For the board?
And I think we are, I mean, we also want to see it all, you know, we're big thinkers too. Lay it all out, share things with us, and create those opportunities in places and times. And so, so that we don't need to influence the operations, but it helps to know about some of the operative things so that it can be shared out into the community. And I think one of our strengths, I trust, will be to translate from all this education ease into more street talk to inform the community about what's truly happening. We have a lot of storytellers in our community that don't know the story but still tell the story. Whatever, that sounds horrible, but yes.
Or community engagement.
That's fine.
But I think the other piece of that, and it's something that we've talked about, is how do we as
board?
board,
It wasn't a growth.
No, community engagement.
Or what was it? What did I say?
I think it's a growth.
I think it's a growth thing. I think the other piece of that, and I think you were saying it, but I think it's two separate things, is how as board members do we engage to get the right information as far as like district operations, right? Whether it's the budget, whether it's, I mean, I don't know, but like how do we act and work in a more meaningful way to understand in order to tell the story?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Right.
what information are we going to ask for? What reports are we going to ask for? What are the KPIs? Like that kind of thing. How do we as a board go down that road?
So, so our strength is curiosity.
Yeah.
And our growth is.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily because we want to, manage it. We just need to understand it and know. And because you can't be transparent with your board, how on earth are you going to be transparent with your community? If I can't read the budget, if I don't know how the budget came to be, if I don't know the philosophy behind the budget, then how on earth will I translate that? How will the person on the street who doesn't get all this input know?
And how do we facilitate the operation?
And it's completely normal and appropriate for you to feel that tension right now. You're in exactly the right place. understand that there's no expectation that any human stepping onto a school board has any skill in pedagogy or school administration or even school governance.
Except for Kevin.
You got lucky, you got an educator, but I mean, there's no expectation. Nevertheless, I mean, K-12 education, these guys are in an industry that's been professionalizing since the 1960s, but still has laid public. I mean, I schooled in the school board for 10 years. I had no education in education. I had no idea. I still really don't have any idea. I just been around it in like osmosis. I mean, I can speak the jargon a little bit, but I still really don't understand at a technical level what these people do. Do you understand how school boards work? Pretty good. But yeah, you're stepping into this and the pool is really deep. So that tension that you're feeling, learning district operations, and just so you can sit in a state of informed oversight, you're going to hear that term over and over tonight. But that's a hard thing to do. Kevin is on, it's on easy mode. He's been here. He's been through this. So he has a much more insight. And then how do you go out and share that story? Okay, that's a lot. Okay, what else? Anything else that needs to get on this point? We're going to come back to this.
I think for growth, I think I really haven't seen it. It's just, it's still kind of fuzzy up there. But what should we be teaching our children should be a central focus. And I say that having read a column by George F. Will, who was interviewing a senatorial candidate who happened to be the president of Harvard. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but Will was, he was rather aggressive, and he said, just what should we be teaching our children since you're the expert in education? And the Harvard president lowered his bifocals and looked at him. And he said, we should teach our children that they will die. A sense of urgency. And I think somewhere, I think children need to understand that. Homework not turned in, truancy. Those are issues that need to be addressed with a strong line. And I would hope we'd come up with some maybe goals to help administrators get it done.
Established priorities, but what I really heard you say is a sense of urgency.
And that breeds resilience, which students need is urgency and resilience, how to respond to adversity. And we have a number of kids that have just given up. Family situations, we've got what? Free lunch, 100%. We've got probably poverty levels, what, 50% or more? Those are issues that need to be addressed and outside sources brought in. We've got, from what I've experienced, traditionally here, we've had outstanding administrators in the classroom and in the buildings. At least that was my experience. Trust them to get it done. Trust the teachers to get it done. When the governor comes in and starts talking about a cell phone policy, we've handled it here.
So I'm going to, can I put down sense of urgency?
Yeah, that's a fun one.
But I want to focus on what the board has to do. I mean, that was very expansive, but creating a sense of urgency.
What I heard Kevin say at the beginning was, just kind of child-centric. And, we're a board, we're not teaching in classrooms. A lot of administrators that work in offices, just like we do. And so to be a student and child-focused board in the sense of how we make decisions and how we operate, and that's, maybe the information that's shared with us, definitely metrics. I mean, we can't tell if things are happening and going in a positive direction with it's measured. So having measurables in front of us all the time, as often as possible to show, oh, this is happening, this is happening. And so I think that measurables will be very informative for us as we try to govern in a way that produces results for children. And wouldn't you want to document your success anyway? Yeah,
These guys do. Guarantee.
right. Well, we need to communicate it out
Yep.
as well.
Okay. Pulling up there, unless there's something that needs to get up. We'll keep moving. We're gonna come back to this. Okay. All right. Oh, I have an agenda slide that doesn't, I'm gonna talk it, oh, wait, is dinner coming? Dinner's coming. It's not here yet, so that means I get to talk. So I'm gonna talk at you for a little bit, and then, well, in the middle of that, we'll stop for dinner. Then we're gonna do some more group work with all these wonderful, educators that have come and joined us. Thank you for making time again. And then you'll go through some scenarios. We'll take our learning out for a spin. And what's going to be really cool is that normally I'm just working with the board. So we don't really get that operational component. But we have the folks that actually do the work on the ground and in the classroom and with parents. So we're going to do above the line and below the line exercise on these scenarios. And then after that, we can dismiss that, or you guys can do what you want. But then we're going to do goal setting with the board. So we're going to go look at that list again and then start building some board development. Okay, that's what so don't look at this agenda slide, we're moving past it. Okay, let's see. Question. Why does the school board matter? And this is really directed at board members, but
I don't know. I feel like the board is the community investment board. We are the people elected to make sure that our investments, our tax investments, are producing results, helping our children, educating the next generation. All that.
With the values.
So stewards of the public trust.
Vision.
Absolutely.
Vision.
Vision, yes.
Fun one.
Tell me more.
I used to say that to my kids. I think to set goals based on community input. I don't know the last time we've had surveys to the community to find out what they want. I haven't received any, but that would be somewhere to start, would be to send out some surveys to find out their interests, to find out their needs, and then kind of categorize them and build a goal sheet off that. To build a picture of what a high school student looks like, what an elementary student looks like, middle school student. What do we want our kids to mature into?
What else? Why does school board matter? Okay, how about this one? Why does board culture matter?
It impacts all levels, all the way down to kids.
How?
If we're disorganized, then everything else will be disorganized. If we're on top of it, we're kind of setting the tone, so to speak. And so if we're dysfunctional, that dysfunctional kind of run through at all levels. If we are, combative, it'll be combative. So we help set the tone or not the tone, but the culture within. We play a big part.
Especially it's public. It's the public facing side.
Yeah.
What else? I know I'm asking you, this is tough. You've got district staff around you, so I know this is a vulnerable space. I know it's hard. but I'm gonna ask you to be courageous.
I know from experience, some of the organizations I'm a part of, if there's toxic leadership at the higher levels, it's really difficult to do your job. You are doing your job with fear of everything. So it's like that can make a major difference in the outcomes. Where if you have a unified upper echelon, then it helps provide that purpose, direction, motivation to keep everybody focused on what the mission is.
Let's focus on that. Tell me more about that. I mean, we often focus on the negative. There's this horrible saying, if the school board gets it wrong that night, it's the classrooms the next day. Okay? But let's think about the opposite. What if the school board got it right? Tell me more about that positive.
Yeah. So some of the leaders that I've had just have been really unified in what their mission, what their purpose was, and it really, you could see it reflect through the different echelons of the organization. Like there would be things that they would do that were outside the normal, but for example, they created an exercise that was not the typical exercise where you go just go through tables. They made it a game and competitive, and it really drove the culture, the esprit de corps, so that everybody wanted to participate and build the organization.
Other thoughts? How can board leadership, board culture positively impact organizations?
A positive culture is going to breed trust, just like David shared, down through the echelons to whatever. Trust that, okay, nothing crazy is going to happen. No rash decisions, no indecisions, and that they're being led and guided with a vision that is aligned with what schools do.
Any other thoughts?
I think kind of touching on what Betsy was talking about earlier about credibility, like it will, of course, impact administration, it will impact staff, it will impact the students, but it will help create buy-in and trust with the community, which will, bring people into the schools. Potentially, it will bring people to our facilities. It will make them trust and respect us and the decisions and what we're trying to do, and pass bonds potentially, like it can change the trajectory so substantially to the positive or negative, depending on how the 7 of us are interacting together.
Okay, and this theme, making it personal, local, and immediate. This one. Relationship with your superintendent. What is the relationship between the board and the superintendent?
We don't know yet. We're learning. We're building it.
That's an opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
But you better have one, right? Yeah.
So what can a school board do if they don't have a superintendent?
Nothing. They can't operate. They're not operators.
You don't have an operator. You can meet.
Yeah.
You can meet and talk.
Yeah.
So literally, we were with the school district earlier this year. I was at a school board meeting with them, and the chair said, it was a member of the board said, oh, we should have the communications director communicate this. They were in a crisis. Communicate this out to the community. But they didn't have a superintendent, and the chair had to remind them, we can't do that. No one on this board can direct staff to action. You don't have that authority. You have one employee. You're a board of 7 with one employee. Everything you do is affected through your superintendent, through your chief executive. And that's true, other governing boards as well. I mean, how many of you sit on other boards? That's true for a nonprofit board and for private boards as well. You have one CEO that is the executive that makes things happen. So yeah, board culture and that relationship with your chief executive is crucially important. It's the most important thing you have. Because without your superintendent, you're not able to get anything done. And it impacts the ability, your ability to do that, to execute on the vision that you're trying to have. Okay? So, why do school boards matter? This slide is really just talking about where you live. You are the connection to the community. You are the bridge between the public institution of education in the North Wasco District or in the community of the Dalles and the community itself. You can transmit the expectations of the community to the district, to that public institution. You also are the shock absorber. So when there are tough things, when the hard things come up, you also take the heat. Okay? And so you're also protecting the district. You provide continuity and stability for the district. We're not going to get into that role tonight, but we can talk about it later. Okay? You also hold the district accountable for those expectations. So that goes back to metrics. And how do we know we're making progress? Okay, next slide. Oh, normative questions. We're going to go through this and then I think dinner is ready. 10 minutes, perfect. This will take about 10 minutes. Some normative questions. And for this conversation, and I know you're being recorded, and I know you're in front of your staff, you're going to need to be courageous for this. Okay? Can every child show growth?
Yes.
Yes.
We're okay with that? You all believe that? Great. How about this one? Can every child succeed?
Yes.
Yes. It'll look different, but yes.
What is success? What do we mean by success? Who defines success?
The child.
Okay. Who else?
Parent.
Families.
Families. Sure.
Teacher.
Teacher. Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. What else?
ODE.
Or yeah.
Sorry, I had to say it.
No, it's accurate. Yeah.
And beyond them, the legislature, the ODE is following the administrative rules and that, but those are based on statute. So the legislature.
Statistics.
Yeah, I mean, but who's reading the stats? Teachers, administrators. Who do you not name?
Me. Us.
You guys define what success is. Kevin talked about vision. You define what's possible for your kids. First and foremost, you define success for this district. Okay? We can predict student outcomes by social factors. We can talk about poverty, but there are other ones. Is that okay?
No.
Scout, you not understanding the question, or
What,
I want to make sure
is what okay? What are you asking?
Is it okay that we can predict student outcomes based on social factors? I can look at a kid and based on their identity, I can predict their outcomes. That is a true statement in the United States.
Well, we can predict, at least by percentages, that if a kid cannot read by fourth grade, they're in trouble.
Sure.
Fourth grade's a real key piece to that. And the penitentiary's probably 70% at that fourth grade level, somewhere in there. So how do we can use that as a challenge. As a goal, reading is huge, should be probably the #1 focus for K through 12, K through 8.
The big one, for sure.
It's huge.
I guarantee you, your district's after tracking reading, like third and fourth grade.
Sorry.
They're tracking reading.
Oh, yeah.
Right, third and fourth grade, for sure. Over. This is a provocative question.
So you're asking, is that what we want?
No.
No,
Yeah, it's not-
because
that's
we
not what
want
we
them
want.
to be resilient and overcome.
Right. Okay, then Given that, what percent of students not graduating? And when I say what percent of students not graduating is acceptable for this board?
0, because we're so new. I think that's an interesting question because, there's so many stories of people that it just, get me out of here, it didn't fit at the time of life. Later they go on, they get the GED, they make success out of their lives. And so whatever reason that wasn't a fit at the time, but, would their lives have been similarly impacted if they hung around and got graduated from high school? I don't know.
So thank you for challenging my use of the word graduating.
Yeah.
Put it in there intentionally.
Because you can graduate and not know how to read, and a lot of people slip through, and so sometimes graduating can be thought of. Really, it's an attendance record more than.
Okay. So graduation. So decoupling that, is GED success for a student?
Yeah.
No.
No.
No, he's shaking his head. No, that's not success.
Not for a
okay.
student.
I have two friends that both didn't graduate high school, and they're both doing very well, but they figured out how to succeed in different ways that school wasn't helping them with.
Okay. Is that generally true? Do you think that's generally true?
I don't think that that's generally true. I just happen to have two friends that was their life path.
And in fact, the research shows that if a child doesn't get a secondary credential, increasingly they will struggle in the 21st century economy. Look, when I graduated from high school, we had a 70% graduation rate and when everybody was happy. My highest and best, when I was a sophomore, junior, I wanted to be a choker setter. I didn't need to graduate. I was gonna go law. Okay. Today, if a kid doesn't graduate from high school and doesn't get a secondary credential, they're going to struggle. Now, certainly there are people who are outliers that can find success, but generally speaking, we need to get kids over the line.
I think, well, I went to a futures deal. I talked to Betsy about this, but high school is important because the socialization aspect of it, and a high school degree is a measure of a student being able to respond to adversity. And Mr. Rowland and I, a teacher of mine, a buddy of mine, we went to the seminar, and this guy asked the question, out of all the terminations in this certain year, 10-year period, out of all the terminations, what was the number one reason these people were fired? And everybody's thinking incompetence, et cetera, et cetera. And the guy shook his head and said, no, the number, 92% of all the terminations was the result of people not being able to get along with their peers. They found a way to get rid of them. It wasn't that they didn't have the talent or the background. They just couldn't get along. And so they fired them. They found a way. And that's, I think, what high schools in the public sector do better than anything else is force children to interact, learn from their mistakes, and build responses to adversity. That's huge. But the state punishes us with a cohort of freshmen coming in at 220, we'll say, and we're responsible for every one of them. And it's cost us huge amounts of money in terms of computers. When I first started teaching, it was a piece of paper, clipped to a board, and that was attendance. Then it evolved, it became a bubble sheet, and then it became a computer in everybody's classroom. Because attendance was huge. We are responsible for that 220 for 4 years. If they don't graduate with a diploma, we get dinged. If they move, we've got to track them down and find out if they graduated from Tigard High School in 4 years. And that's the challenge that we're facing as a state, which, and GEDs don't count. It's a 4-year period. They graduate in a 5-year program, it counts against us. And I think funding is tied to that.
So I'm happy to challenge that term graduate. I mean, I think I heard over here in this corner that GEDs were okay. Is 5-year completer? I know you disagree that GED is okay. How about a 5-year completer?
I love a 5-year completer.
Huh?
There's some data that shows children in trauma could be, 2 years more behind. So why not continue to serve them until they are educated? I don't know. Maybe that's totally naive thought.
Okay.
Poorly formed thought. I don't know.
So then, given that, given a broader definition of graduating,
Yeah.
what percentage of students not graduating is acceptable for this board?
None, again.
Anybody want to push back against that?
I'd say that every student that's motivated to graduate should graduate. But you can't lead it towards the water next to it. You gotta have, the kids gotta be, learners have to be motivated to win. And so I think that you're going to naturally have some that aren't going to get across the line. But what's that acceptable?
Right, so you can say, well, it's okay if 13% don't graduate. Well, those 13% are people, they're young people with a future or not because they didn't graduate. And so what, was that a failure of the system to serve them? Or was it a failure of the student to be motivated?
But is it okay for them to not be motivated, given whatever reason? What I'm hearing is 100% is the goal. 70% doesn't get it. So this is important. This is a consequential thing. The research shows that because the very conceivable belief that all students can and will learn to be successful. Every kid, gets a secondary credential, they'll plan for post-secondary life. That's our goal, right? Whatever that's going to look like. And hey, it's not going to be pretty for some people. Some of them, we're going to be chasing them down, a month or two before graduation, trying to get them to finish up. And that expectation, that sense of urgency is really important, because when you say, well, 98% isn't good enough, and you say 2% of your kids, and of your graduation rate, how many kids do you graduate a year on average? Your graduating class, how big is it on average?
Last year's graduating class was around 185.
So 180 was, so that's about 200. So that's 4 kids. So which 4 kids?
Right, exactly. So
Which 4 kids are you going to let?
that you didn't chase down.
Or which 4 kids are you just going to say,
Yeah.
you're going to let your staff let go?
Yeah, right. And when do they do that? Never.
And you start making choices.
Yeah.
So it's consequential. Okay, I'm between you, and thank you for leaning into that, because it's important. Because it affects the way that we go. And we're aiming at each and every kid. Okay, I think dinner's ready.
Yeah.
Okay. earlier, the story about if the board gets it wrong that night, it's in classrooms the next day. Here's the actual causal connection there. And, you know, that's actually true. So how individual board members show up in the board meeting impacts board work. It affects board culture, finds its way into organizational culture. It's going to impact your staff, and it's going to find its way into classrooms. This is actually a regression model. So they actually went and created it's a causal connection here. So board candidates, don't think that you're wasting your time, board members. You do actually impact your organization. So, you know, normally I'm working with the leadership team and I use this term. So I need to define it. When I'm talking about the leadership team, I'm talking about the board. The board provides authority. Board, where do you get your authority? My experienced board members.
Authority?
Where does your authority derive?
Statute.
Yeah, statute, exactly.
Statutory.
The legislature said, go forth and govern public education in your community. So that's actually in your policies, and you can find the statute. You provide direction. Thank you, Kevin. You mentioned vision. That's what that means, is you provide a vision for what's possible for education in your community. You also set expectations of what that's going to look like. You're expressing that on behalf of your community members. And you provide oversight. You track the district's progress towards that vision. Okay? Next part of the leadership team is the superintendent. They provide, of course, executive leadership, but I would say most importantly, they provide instructional leadership. They're bringing their career of expertise to the organization and to the board. Remember, there's no expectation that anybody sitting on the board has any skill in pedagogy. So the superintendent serves as the chief advisor to the school board. The superintendent puts the board's direction into action. And of course, they effectuate that through, the cabinet and, downward through the organization. But they provide that executive leadership. The third part of the leadership team is the administrative professional. This is the one that's often overlooked, but it's really important. But let's be frank here. The board secretary, our school boards float on an ocean of paper. Now today, most of that paper is virtual, but there's still a lot of documents that we work with, the actual machinations of conducting the governance of education. So the board secretary also provides all of that coordination for the school board, and they provide continuity. Now, it's new in the position, but it's often, let's be frank, superintendents come and go, and so do school boards. It's often the administrative professional that's been in that position for a number of years and knows where the bodies are hidden and might have put a few of them there. But no, this is often the person that's in the room that remembers when the superintendent board had that conversation 10 years ago. And we're coming back to that topic again. So they provide continuity. They're also in a tough bit, I'm getting at this. Between the board and superintendent, that's where overall district leadership comes from. The two parts, two sides of a coin, the yin and yang of leadership for the district. You work together. One without the other, you're not effective. A board needs a superintendent to actually do anything, to have their direction happen. A superintendent needs a board for the authority to act and to have the solid ground to actually move things forward. Okay? So the two, you need both to get things done. Between the board and the board secretary, you have governing body operations. And so the board has to work with the secretary. The secretary has to help the board do its work, particularly with school boards in Oregon, because it's a volunteer gig. If you're within LA Unified, you get a salary and it's a full-time job, and that's great, but that's not how we do it here in Oregon. It's a volunteer gig. You're only showing up once or twice a month. And so you need someone to support the functioning of the board. And then between the secretary and the superintendent, I mean, the key job of a chief executive is to make decisions and to listen and and give direction. And so they need an assistant to tell them where to be and to do that work and coordinate. In the center here is overall leadership efficacy for the district. So you see it's a three-legged stool. Well, any one of these components is lagging, we lose leadership efficacy. Questions? Usually there are. All right. So this is a slide. It is not comprehensive, but it's a timeline of the research looking at the connection between school boards and student outcomes. The purpose of this slide is to let you know that what I'm sharing with you tonight is not, Vince's vision of what governance should be like. It's what the education science tells us. So everything that we do at OSBA is evidence-based. We're not making it up, okay? So, back in late 1990s, early 2000s, we had Mary Bell Gardell was her name. She was a PhD candidate under Tom Holmesbury at Iowa State. And they had this crazy, this research idea. If we develop training for school boards, will they change their behavior and practice, and will that impact kids? And so they went out and did that. They developed a training program, delivered it to school boards, and then tracked student outcomes. And sure enough, there were improvement, and when we say student outcomes, academic outcomes. So reading and math, got that. They replicated it in Montana and Texas and found the same result. Eventually it came to Oregon right about the time that I was starting on the Corvallis board, and so Oregon was a lighthouse state. Indeed, they found the same outcome. So boards can professionalize. So if we provide professional development for school boards, for lay boards, they do up their skill, and that impacts kids vis-a-vis their organization. Okay? And that's what this line of research. And it's still going on today. So some research articles here. So qualities of high-performing board. What are those things that school boards do where they have positive impacts on kids? I want to draw your attention to the left side of the screen here. And across the top, I mentioned 3 landmark articles. They're getting a little dusty, but they're still frequently cited in research today because they're so important. Lighthouse. There's Mary and Tom here back in the day. And then Johnson, I forget his name, Essential Board Leadership Practices. Your direction of Brian in 2016, that was an article sponsored by the National School Boards Association, the 8 qualities of highly effective school boards. So here, the first and foremost, thank you, Kevin, for saying it earlier, vision and goals. First and foremost, our job. Setting clear expectations, setting a vision of high expectations for what's possible for our kiddos. Because if you don't believe it, how can you expect these guys to believe it? And how can you expect mom and dad to believe it? And how can you expect the kid to believe it? Climate resources, this is about building conditions for success. Anybody know tree farmers? Anybody know tree farmer? There's got to be some, there's a couple people. I love tree farmers because they think differently than other people. They don't think in years or even decades. They think in generations. I'm going to plant trees today that my grandkids will harvest, and I'm not going to be around to see them. And school boarding is kind of the same thing. We're building conditions for success today. We're putting pieces in place. We're making investments today that may take years to fully unfold. Bond work is like this. Curriculum work is like this. I may not be in office anymore, but I'm going to build those conditions for success. So we have to think. We have to have a longer time horizon than we think. who said it? I think it was Betsy. So, who said urgency? Building a sense of urgency is absolutely Kevin. Again, building a sense of urgency about a vision for higher and aligning with sustaining resources towards your vision. You can see where priorities are really important. It was Betsy talking about metrics, so it didn't monitor prior. Anybody remember No Child Left Behind? There's a few people, us older people remember. Bad policy. But there was a gold silver lining to it. It forced us to look at disaggregated student data. And prior to No Child Left Behind, it was acceptable for school boards to not look at student data, or at least not disaggregated data. But today, it is an accepted norm that you will be data savvy. You need to hold the system accountable, and you're going to monitor progress. And the way you do that is with student data. I guarantee you, your district team is doing that. Your building and their administrators are doing that. They're tracking their data. And that needs to flow into the boardroom so that you know what's going on and fill that accountability role. And then communicate it out. Cohesive teaming is just an academic term for what the board is doing right now. Meeting with the leadership team, with the superintendent, the administrative professional, and we have district staff in the room. This is like cohesive teaming, like on a whole order, another order of magnitude. Learning together, practicing unified governance, building shared beliefs, values. That's why I asked you those normative questions. That 100% graduation rate, that's why I asked you that, because you're building beliefs in what's possible for your kids. Community engagement is grounding, a central role of the board. You are that interface between community and the district. You bring community into your governance processes, and you also guide how district is going to engage. We also build public schools to succeed. We can build that collaborative relationship with partners, because let's face it, the expectations of K-12 education have fundamentally shifted. Because you just told me that we have to reach each and every kid. Each and every kid has to graduate, right? But that's not what the system was built for. It's not resourced for that. And so you're tasked, whether you like it or not, you're tasked with rebuilding the plane while we're flying. Just like these guys in the room. They're trying to do that, reach each and every kid. So we can't do it alone. We need to bring our community partners alongside until we figure out how to resource and prepare education and our people to do that work. They're going to need a lot. Last one was policy and accountability. It's a central role of what you do. How often does the board meet? Once or twice a week? Once a month right now. So for the intervening 30 days, your superintendent needs to know what you expect of her. And the way that she does that is through your policy. Now, I'll let superintendents read policy at 11 o'clock at night when tough things are happening. That's not completely true. They read policy all the time. But that's what they're really doing. When someone's going sideways and they're like, oh no, what do we got to do? What does the book say? They go back to policy. That's how we do it. Policy is how the board operationalizes their governance. I'll say it again. Policy is how the school board operationalizes its governance. So we only have authority when we're gaveled into a meeting. Right now, the board can take up a motion and act on it right now. You're in a public meeting right now, so you could. Okay? Don't do that, please. I have had it happen. So, yeah, otherwise, when we gavel out, we're just John Q. Public. Now, people don't perceive us that way, but that is the case. Okay, so these are the qualities of high-performing boards. If we do these things on the left-hand side, then we can expect that we're gonna have positive impacts on our organization and on. So let's flip the coin. We also do research on the bad things that we do. Jose, I think it was you that mentioned disorderly meetings. Meetings that are illustrating lack of respectful engagement. Showing our name across the table. Don't do that. I love this one. Less time spent on student achievement. They literally have graduate students with stopwatches measuring how much time you spend. They watch a video, watch the video of the board. They measure how much time you spend. Boards that spend more time talking about the needs of kids and their student achievement tend to have higher student outcomes. Go figure. Spend more time talking about your kids, you can expect you're going to be better. Never seek the advanced or known genetics. It's a tough one, it's complex, because we all come with our passion. When I was elected to the Coeur d'Alene School Board, I was elected by people to advance a sustainability education agenda. Which explicitly was in my campaign, and I did work on that. But not to the exclusion of everything else. I mean, one of the first things that I did was get on the Special Education Advisory Committee, because I didn't know anything about special education. So even though we may have our personal passions, something that we're coming to school board for, we're still have to embrace that trustee role. We're showing up for all kids. Okay. Let's see. Let's look at working relationships. And when we think about relationships, I want you to think in 3 channels. Within the board, so between board members, between the board and the superintendent, and between board and community. And with that superintendent one, that's kind of with staff, but really your relationship is functionally with your superintendent. They're your only employee. These other folks in the room, they work for the superintendent, they don't work for you. Okay? Oh, that's reliance on the administrator for advice. I said it earlier. The superintendent is the chief advisor to the school. I mean, K-12 education is a technical endeavor, and you have lots of wisdom in the room. So relying on them for that. Less focus on policy items is a bad sign. Why?
That's how we operationalize our government.
That's how we operationalize our governance, yes. So if you want to create change, what's the policy? That's the lever that I want to pull. Only vaguely aware of student improvement initiatives. You don't hear me use the term informed oversight over and over again. It's the state you want to strive for. Anytime you're investing your time, any resources, your time, money, district money, anything, you should have informed oversight. You should have informed oversight on progress towards goals. So that means that data and information is flowing into this room, and I, of course, I'm standing in the cafeteria, but into the boardroom. So we're always flowing into this point. That doesn't mean that informed oversight does not mean that I'm walking out into schools unannounced to evaluate education. That means that that information is flowing to the whole board, right? So I think micromanagement. Walking into schools is an example of micromanagement. We don't want to do that. Making excuses. And this shows up a lot of different ways. We like to wag our fingers at the teachers. Man, that teacher's here. They almost went on strike. They did go on strike, whatever. Man, if we could only be rein in the teachers union, then we'd have student success. Or parents. You know, they never kind of show up to curriculum time. What do we got to do? We bought pizza. Do we have to have a margarita machine or something to get people to show up to math night? Come on. You know, they just don't care. They don't care about their kids. They're not interested. If we could just have parent engagement, then we can have student success. The one that gets me is when it's, well, look at those kids. It's those kids. Or another one I get from boards is, well, we're a rural district. We're not like those big districts in the valley. You know, we just can't have the program opportunities like that. What do you expect? So I'll tell you a story. It's 2014. I've been on the school board for a year. I've been at the Royal Community Explorer. I was doing social science. I thought it was really cool. I was at Oregon State University, working at Oregon State University. Social scientist on a school board. I thought went to OSBA annual convention. Katie Haycock, she's the executive director of the Education Trust. It's a big national nonprofit. She's not anymore. But she told the story about Robert Mason Elementary School in Mobile, Alabama. Now you can get out your phone and look this school up. It's still there. It's in a predominantly black. Jose has heard this story at least 3 times before. You know, it's a black neighborhood, high poverty, high crime, substandard housing, houses boarded up. You can visualize this neighborhood in your mind's eye. And Robert Mason Elementary School was at the bottom of the distribution year over year. And the school board would meet and say, oh, what are we going to do about Robert Mason Elementary School? They'd bring their hands and their business. And then someone would say, well, where those kids come from? What do you expect? It's tough. I mean, if you want to be that here, you'd say, God, you know, the kid's parents, you know, his granddad made meth, and his dad made meth. His highest hope is to make meth. Bring this to work. Anyway, back to Mobile. So this was, you know, a couple years before then, and for whatever the principal went into early retirement. I don't know why, but the staff turned over, and they started afresh with new staff. And over the course of a couple of years, they went from the bottom of the distribution to the top. Now, what had changed? It wasn't the kids. I mean, literally, some of the kids were still in the building. What had changed were the expectations. And that school is still there. Now, I don't know how it's performing today, but transformative change can happen. So here's the icing on the cake. A week prior to going to that convention, I was in retreat with my own school board, and I said these words to them. We need to be mindful of the socioeconomic status of the children that are coming to us. I was the board member who made the excuse. I let my own school board off the hook. We don't get to make excuses. Sorry to have to bring bad news, but no one's coming to save you. The legislature doesn't fully understand what you're facing. Oregon Department of Education is maxed out. OSBA, I'm one of 4 trainers serving 197 school boards in Oregon. It's on you guys. You guys in this room have got to figure it out. And that's tough. You don't get to make excuses, school board. You just don't. You gotta believe. You gotta believe it can happen. Because if it can happen to Robert Mason Elementary School, it can sure as hell happen in the Dallas. Okay? We don't get to make excuses. Staff don't know the board. This is a really good bellwether board. Because you'll know when staff want to share with you, you'll know you're doing well. Okay? You'll know you're doing really well when they'll come into your boardroom and tell you how they tried something new and it didn't work out the way they wanted, and it went wrong, and what they learned and what they're going to try next time. Then you're knowing really good, because at that point, they know you have their back. And then you can do really good stuff with your students. Last one here is anecdotes and personal agendas. This really goes back to being data savvy. We don't get to use our personal experience. We're working at the systems level. And that can be hard. That can be hard, particularly when we have our own kids, when we have a dog in the hunt, or skin in the game. So we really need to take a step back and think about all of it. Okay? Please try to avoid this behavior. Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm in the Dalles. Wait, you have cruise ships going by on the river, right? Okay, so then this analogy actually works. Okay. Some board members have seen this. So I want you to visualize the school district as a cruise ship. Right now, we're in the big, restaurant amidships, okay? Anyway, your superintendent is the captain of the ship. She's in charge of navigation. She's given the commands to bring, you guys are leaving, you left the harbor, we got school started, okay? She's in charge of engineering, you got school board, housekeeping, maintenance, food service, crew, staffing, you get it all. You get the idea. Everything to make that ship go, that's the superintendent's job. School board, you commission the journey. You say, Captain Bernal, take us to the island of student success paradise, where every child graduates with a plan for post-secondary life. Whatever that is, that career, maybe it's going to work for Taco Bell. I don't know, not a real high one, but I mean, maybe it's going to college. I don't know. Maybe it's going to OIT to be a diesel mechanic. Whatever that plan is. And you set the destination to get there. You also set the intermediate goals. The course of call. At all times, we're going to trust our maritime professional. Because is there anybody in this room that knows how to drive, run a cruise ship? Me either. I don't know.
I'd give it a go.
So if I was going to get on a cruise ship and run it up to Columbia, I would think that there was a maritime professional that could do that. Here's another way to think about it. When was the last time you climbed up in the cockpit of an airliner and told the pilot how to fly the plane? Now, that doesn't mean that we're just passive in this relationship, right? You get to have expectations. If I buy a ticket for Honolulu, Hawaii, I sure as heck want to land in Honolulu, Hawaii. So there's a destination. I want to get somewhere. And I want to try to, how many of you have been on a flight where there's the little dashboard on the back of the seat where it tells you your airspeed and altitude and the time, the destination, all that stuff? Well, that's just tracking data. That's a dashboard, right? That's a data dashboard. So that's accountability. That's tracking progress, okay? And have any of you, as you're disembarking, deplaning, get to the front, and of course the pilot is there, and they're like, doing this pose, because they always do, and they're looking cool, and you say, hey, thanks for a nice landing. Or if you came down in a thunderstorm, planes doing this, coming in, you're like, thanks for getting us down alive. That's evaluation. So it's the same sort of things, but the relation, it's an analogy for the relationship. So what does this look like, for a school board? So, I mean, on the governance side, you're operationalizing your governance through policy. Your superintendent district team are going to develop ARs or administrative rules that put that into operational terms so your staff can understand how to comply with that policy. You're approving the budget, but your district staff and the superintendent are going to roll up those expenditures and give you a document. You're going to be adopting programs, whatever that is, lots of them, and your staff are going to do that implementation. Curriculum is something where it's a collaborative relationship where your staff are going to identify curriculum. It's you, but you're going to approve it. It's and I mean, this is one that's kind of like that tree farming piece, because what's going to happen is when you have an adoption, staff are going to come to you and say, the superintendent, they're going to come to you and say, hey, we need to do a reading. What are we adopting this year? Does anybody know?
Cell phone policy.
Social studies. So we're going to do a social. Maybe this has already happened. They've already come to you and said, hey, we're going to do social studies adoption. This is what's on the schedule. Here's a schedule. New board members, there's a whole schedule of curriculum adoption. Do the social studies adoption. We're going to go look at these are the approved curricula that we're going to look at. And they go and they take a look at them, they take them for a spin out in classrooms, and then they'll do a whole evaluation. Then they'll come back to you and say, here's what we found. Here are the top three, and we like this one for this reason, we like this one for this one, and this one for this one. But we really like, this is the one we want, and here's why. And they'll give you all the reasons why. Then you have a chance to look at it. It's like 30 days for public viewing. And then you're and hopefully everybody's in agreement. I've yet to encounter a board that really bucks their staff because they're the education professionals, right? But they're checking in with you. So you spend all the money, and curriculum is hideously expensive. You buy it, and then they start implementing. Now, if we're with social studies, I don't know if you have a dip, but I know with reading curriculum, particularly in primary, I mean, you may see a dip in scores because staff need to learn how to teach that curriculum. Kids aren't used to it. And so you'll see a dip, and it may take a couple of years before you see that full implementation of that curriculum. You gotta think across years. Community engagement, it's gonna look really different between board and staff. There are things that staff have to do, they're statutorily required, particularly in special education, in integrated guidance. Staff, help me here. What are the statutory required engagements?
Title.
Title I, thank you. And what is Title I? For board members who don't know that. Title I is from the Education Act, and it's services provided for students that are economically disadvantaged. Okay. So there's a number of things that they're required to do around community engagement. Your engagement is around communicating with, partners and people who are interested in that work, moms and dads. Okay. Community governance work, you see the term, informed oversight there at the bottom. So you're staying in a state of informed oversight and monitoring progress. All the while, superintendent and staff are reporting progress. Okay. Things that school boards do to improve student outcomes. Think of the lever as an analog for the amount of impact on kids. So what do you want to spend your time on? Remember spending time on kids? Hiring and evaluating the superintendent is the most powerful thing that you can do. Okay? They're the executive leader, instructional leader for your school district. And your evaluation process is the most powerful way you can foster a healthy relationship with the chief executive. So spend lots of time and energy on that. Developing and adopting policy. Why?
It's how you operationalize your governance.
Yay. Tracking school progress. That's another big lever. We'll talk about the why here in a minute. Next one, approving the budget. That's a smaller lever. In Oregon, a lot of the revenue side of our budget is really determined by the legislature to a large degree. And, back prior to the 90s, those reforms, we had more local control over revenue. Reality is our budget process is really checking the strategic alignment between our priorities and our expenditures. Okay. Last one here is ministerial functions of the board. This is the check register. Check register. You have a finance professional with internal controls to do that work. Toilet paper contract. I mean, it's things like that. That's not going to have an impact, direct impact on kids. I'm not saying don't pay attention to those. I'm not saying it isn't important. Just to understand it doesn't have a lot of impact on kids. Okay. Board governance. This is really about, we don't want to be disengaged. Okay. And we also don't want to be micromanaging. We want to be in that sweet spot of informed oversight. I've already talked about this one, but lots of things. How you guys doing? Ready to get more complex? It's going to get more complex here. Okay, so how do we do this stuff? Because there's a lot here. There's a lot of moving parts to being on the school board. So there is a research-based way to understand the skill set needed to do this governance. And we use balanced governance as the tool. So here are the balanced governance standards. So what I'm teaching you is from standard 11 in balanced governance. I know it's hard to read. I can send you a sheet with these.
Yeah.
Okay. Pay attention to the titles. That's the important part. So we talked about the good things that boards do and bad things, right? Remember those? Let's pay attention to the good ones. Remember what those were? So no surprises there. Vision directed planning showing up again. Number one, super important. That is horrible. Community engagement, we're going to talk about it. Effective leadership. This is about how we show up and effectuate our governance in the boardroom. Accountability, okay? Because that's a core function of the board, holding the district accountable. Going right with standard 4 accountability is 5, using data for continuous improvement. Because that's how we hold the district accountable, tracking progress towards our vision, our priorities, right? Cultural responsiveness is new, this is emergent, but it's really consequential because we have to reach every kid. You guys told me that 100%. You're graduating 100%, that's the goal. That means we have to reach each and every kid. That means we have to be culturally responsive in the way we do that. You have to expect that these guys are going to use culturally responsive practices in their buildings, and you guys need to figure out what culturally responsive governance looks like in the Dallas. Okay? I know cultural responsive may be a politically polarizing term, but that's really, it's about meeting each and every kid where they're at. Culture and climate is about building a organizational culture. We've been talking about this already. You understand why it's important. Someone else talked about, oh, you talked about continuous learning. Hey, guess what? You're governing a learning organization. We should hold ourselves accountable for that and actually do that. So what are the practices that you're using to ensure that you're continuing to learn and building your capacity to govern a learning organization? Okay. Next one is systems thinking. This is about understanding that internally how your district works. It's a hierarchical organization. You have a school board, superintendent, building administrators, get the idea. So internally you have a system. But then understanding that that system exists within a local context of local jurisdictions. Okay, so you have your city, you have your county, which is in the state. You're also in an education organization, so you're in the system of education organization, both within the state and federal. Get the idea, multiple systems. Innovation and creativity. It's another thing that this is a new one. Why is this important?
Well, the world's changing pretty rapidly today.
Boom. Yeah.
What's AI going to do for kids today?
Yeah. And are the expectations on K-12 education, are they same as they were 10 years ago? No. It's moving really fast. I mean, do we know what our economy is going to look like 5 years from now? Can anybody in this room predict that? No. So innovation and creativity is vitally important. The people in this room, they're definitely being innovative and creative in their buildings, in the classroom. Last one's here, what we think of when we get the board, do the board, this is what we spend this time on. Board member conduct and your budget, okay? And when we think about that, we can talk about all that stuff. This is the bread and butter of board work, and then financial oversight. So this is how we package our training. It's also when you do a board self-assessment, this is what you hold yourself accountable to. You're doing it. I'm going to touch briefly on some internal research that we've done. My director, Kristen Miles, did some research connecting a few of these standards to superintendent leadership. She found that the standard of community engagement, cultural responsiveness, and using data for accountability was associated with improved transformational leadership, particularly around inspirational motivation. Transformational leadership is a leadership style that's found in executive leaders, superintendents. And one of the spokes of that is inspirational motivation. Okay, so boards that score themselves high in community engagement, cultural responsiveness, and using data for accountability tended to have superintendents that use more inspirational motivation in their leadership. Okay? So you influence how things function. Now we think that's because when you're having tough, gritty conversations about why some kids are succeeding and others are not, and that you're showing that interest and you care about that, that's inspiring and powerful. So that's why I say that you need to be in a state of informed oversight. The information is flowing into this room. This is why. Okay. I know that the staff are sitting here tapping their toes. They're like, is this guy ever going to stop talking? Okay. So what I'm going to do is what I need to do. How many board members?
Roughly 28, right?
7 board members. I have 7 board members. So I'm going to count you off on board members 1 through 7. You know where you're at position-wise. And then if you're staff, I want you to count off. So I'm going to start here with you, and then I need you to count off. Okay, ready?
1,
2,
3,
4, 5. Wait. Staff member
6.
And then one more.
7.
And then
1,
2. 5, 6,
7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
and 6. Okay, so I'm gonna put the ones over here, fan yourselves out into 7 groups, okay? And then I'll put the prompt up. And then board members, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You're 6, right?
You're 6.
You're not going with the zone.
Yeah. Do I have 7 board members? I do have 7 board members.
Your zone.
You're 6, right? Yeah. Oh, you're 7? Kevin's 6 then. Are you 6 or 7?
Your zone 6.
Yeah, board members.
Whatever zone you ran for.
Oh, he's 5. Jose's 6. You're zone 6. Oh, not zone?
Okay, we're grouped up. 6.
6, there's 5. Where's 6? Over here. Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is a unique opportunity. School boards don't normally get to have face-to-face conversations. New board members don't get to have face-to-face conversations with a wide array of district staff in their 3rd month of service. But this is a really, really great opportunity for this board. So staff members, thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. It's going to be really useful. This is really about getting the board to know who you are and the work that you're doing, okay? So I heard that you were doing some Renee Brown work over the summer. So I'm using a few prompts. So you might have heard of this one, Truths and a Value. So in your group, I want you to share 2 personal experiences or facts about yourself, and then 1 core value. And I'm going to give you how many people we got? I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Is that enough? No, I'm not going to give you more. Like 7 minutes. Ready? Is that enough?
Probably.
We'll have to be. You think so?
We'll figure it out, yeah.
Okay, you ready? Set, and then go. 7.
I'll go first. Okay. I'm shooting. I am. I started out working in 2020. That could be one of my personal experiences. And I am from Hawaii. I don't know if what specifically these experiences are supposed to be about, so I'm just using those. And then core value is give, or at least give way more than what you're receiving.
Okay, just 2 personal experiences. The reason I went the reason I went into education in the first place was not because I had this thought of becoming a teacher or kids. My grandma used to always tell me it would make a good school mother. Like all growing up, that's what she would tell me. And I didn't even start in that major, I ended up there. And I'm trying to think of some personal growth. And my core value is integrity. I feel super strong about if I'm not doing what is the right thing, I cannot expect any of my staff to do what is right. I need to model that.
Ask you a specific question about something that was discussed in executive session. Okay, members, what do you do? This is a hard question. This is really hard. You guys are good. Yes. Take it for your concern. You can't say anything. Because you can't confirm or deny. If you talked about a kiddo in that executive session, you can't confirm that happened. You can't deny that happened. You can't have that conversation. Good job, board members. Okay? Oh, yeah. This was created by an attorney. Watch this. These are all Yeah, so you can go into executive session for a variety of reasons. They're listed on the screen. But I mean, you have an administrative professional in the room somewhere. There you go. She knows up when you can do that. If you're going to go to an executive session which gives you the eye, then stop. Don't do that. But if you ever have a question about that board members, you go into an executive session, just pick up the phone and call. You can call me. Okay, I have business cards. You can call me. I know these laws, or you can call Paisley. Okay, or call district council. Paisley is free, so do that. Okay. Ooh, I don't know. This one's related to the other one, but it's so a board member receives several telephone calls from people in the community claiming that the superintendent has not renewed a well-liked teacher. The board member is familiar with this teacher and believes they did a good job teaching their child for this year. The board member indicates to community members that they denounce the superintendent's decision and will personally investigate the situation. While discussing the issue with the superintendent, the board member requests to see all information related to the relevant dismissal. The superintendent denies the request and the board member replies, I will personally see that your upcoming performance review reflects your insubordination. Okay. Again, before we dogpile this, what's going well? Okay, so they argue there is a superintendent evaluation process. Okay, good. Yeah, that it's interesting. I've never surfaced that before. But that is true. That is good. Yes. What else? Again, yes, before the public meeting. Yes, good. What else?
They care.
Yeah. Yeah, they're engaged. Community engagement? Sure, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so board members, take breaths. So you prospective administrative folks, the superintendent did something really important here. That was really good. Boom. They should have had that one. So she said that the superintendent denies the request. It's an HR matter, it's confidential. So you can't share it with the board member, okay? And board members, we can't pry into HR matters. Okay, we have to trust our superintendent. Okay, guys, let's play it. Okay, what's going bad? What's bad?
This is the exact scenario that we were saying what it was to trust. Because just because you think that it went well, that you're telling your that class, you have no idea what was really going on. And if we reach the point, like, I will tell you as an administrator, if you actually reach the point that you are dismissing somebody, you've done a heck of a lot of work. Right. And assuming that this person that it was just some conflicted decision, it's
frustrated, and this is the sort of thing that, you know, is where I think that strike really can come from, because it's so easy to hear one kind of story and not know the true details of really what is in this.
Okay, so broken trust with the superintendent, because they had to make that tough, they had to do all the homework and make that tough decision not to do a teacher. That is not a good time, folks. Okay? So they did that. Where else is there broken trust? Yeah. So tell me more. They announced the superintendent decision. Yeah.
Guilty before proven.
Yeah, they're not supporting their maritime professional or aviation professional. Yeah, absolutely. Did you guys hear that over here? So there's like numerous systems that this erodes. You know, you have what, HR systems, your collective bargaining agreements, what do you said state law. There's a bunch of things embedded here. Yeah, FERPA. Okay.
They're putting themselves and the school district at risk for numerous lawsuits from something like that. Because they've just completely usurped the whole system.
Yep. Returning back to trust, where else is that broken trust?
Well, the board member has broken the connectivity with the other board members, which creates inner stress, trustful, you know, you make the rest of the board.
Yep, absolutely. So broken trust. What about those community members? Because they were on the phone with community members. So how is this going to play out? Are they actually going to be able to fulfill the commitment that they made to community members?
No.
No, they wrote a check that can't cash. Okay. I'm trying to remember all the other things.
Also, the last one, yeah, they bullied class superintendent. I mean, they graded also.
Yeah, that's a threat.
It is a threat.
That's a threat. Yeah, absolutely. And you're probably not going to come back. You threaten your superintendent. Okay. I think we're going to talk about complaints for a little bit. So board members, and this is really to your new board members navigating complaints. So this is in policy. Of course, this is supposed to be a sample policy, but individual board member exercises their authority and responsibility of their position on board in this legal section only. I said it earlier. When we gavel in, you have authority. And the only authority you really have is to cast votes. Everything else is window dressing. Just talk. And then when we gavel out, we're just public, okay? No individual board member may direct the superintendent to action without board authorization. Board members will not be in the administration of district boards. So this, in this scenario, the board member has violated both of these. Policy BDF is board, we call it board's best friend, BDF, but it's the board member standards of conduct. Who enforces policy BDF? Yeah, the board. You hold yourselves accountable. But in the worst cases, if the board won't hold themselves accountable, the public will. They'll file a complaint. Okay? Public complaints. Let's talk about that really quick. When does the board hear a complaint? You know these, okay? Don't you? I'm putting you on the spot. Yeah, there's four instances.
4 steps?
No, the 4 instances in which the board. Yep, on appeal. Okay, and I think I have also.
Against the board chair.
This is just, it says in policy that you can appeal complaints against the superintendent.
against the
Because
board.
you weren't the only venue, and then complaints against the board or a member. So 4 instances. Okay, so what about those conversations with parents? How do we navigate that, board members? So if someone can't stop you, this is the grocery store scenario. You go to the grocery store and someone starts chewing on your ear, it happens all the time. Okay, how do we navigate that?
Give them a link to the public complaint policy.
Yeah, that's one of the things you can do.
Well, I think it depends what they're talking about. If they're talking about something going on with their student in the school, they should use the chain of command. You don't talk to the student, you talk to the principal.
Yep.
Push them in that direction and don't give them more.
Yep.
Because that happens to educators all the time. You'll run into people in stores and they'll start chewing on your ear and you'll say, we really should go talk to the principal and just shut that down as quickly as you can.
I mean, the first thing we want to do, let's be frank, if they're coming to us with their kid, we want to honor that conversation. We want to be empathetic. Oh gosh, you didn't get that algebra class. Or, you know, your kid didn't get the, I'm sorry. That's really important. Okay. Yeah, we can hear your details. Because if you get a whip that this is going to be a formal complaint, that this is going to route into the formal process, you may have to hear it on appeal, right? And so we don't want to have this ex parte communication, which is just having improper knowledge of the case. Okay? We're going to direct them to resources. We're going to act in our ombudsman role, the guide, because you know the process better than they do. So guide them to resources. Did you talk to the principal? No. Go talk to the principal. Or talk to the teacher, principal, policy Gale. And then, this is the most important one, let the superintendent know. Because, you know, the public thinks that we have magic wands, that we can go and make magic things happen in the district, and we don't as board members. But superintendents have all these people that are in the room, they can get tons of resources on it. Okay? Okay, I'm gonna raise the temperature on this. Don't tell me it doesn't happen. It does. You're at the barbecue. Everybody's had a couple of glasses of Chardonnay and someone starts really chewing on you. Okay? How are we going to navigate that? So, we're not there yet. By all rights, but under policy BG, all communication of substance between the board and staff goes to the superintendent. You don't want to avoid it. Okay? So you can refuse that conversation. And you would be appropriate to do that. But it's probably not going to sit well. I mean, I'm in rural Oregon in general, we have a culture of close connection to our elected officials. It's just part of the human order. So I'm going to teach you how to violate policy BG and do it right. They haven't fired me yet. I've been teaching it for 5 years. So stay with me. Okay, so you consider refusing, you can. And another way to do that is you can ask, because let's be frank, this is going to happen to you guys. And you can ask that staff member, are you just blowing off steam or is this real? Is this something going on? And you can clarify. Let it go in one ear and out the other. Okay? So, but if you decide that you're going to move forward, disclose that you will speak on. So this is a charter school slide, sorry. You're going to speak with the superintendent, right? You're going to let them know, and then they can decide whether they want to have that conversation with the board member, because they're violating policy as well. Okay? If you proceed, same protocol, on a conversation, when you make a complaint, direct them to research. Did you talk to your principal? No. Go talk to your principal. Stop bothering me. And then follow up with sorry, it's done. But you follow up with the superintendent, and you have to in that situation. You must, because you are now out of bounds. Okay. Superintendent Bernal, did I say anything? Is there anything you'd like to add? Okay. I always check in with the superintendent when I teach this because, I mean, I'm teaching you guys how to violate your own policy. But I'm sorry, this is the reality of school boarding in Oregon, okay? Okay, what are the investigative powers of the board and its members? Come on, board members. You can investigate things, can't you? It's a trick question. You have none. Oh, is that what you said? It is risky. It's damn risky. Yeah. I love this question, and I stumbled on it, a couple of years into my tenure. I went for school. There's this really cool thing about attorneys. They're ethically required to tell you the truth when they're working as attorneys. It's really cool. So you can ask them this question in the course of, when you're going through the complaint hearing. You can ask them, in the course of your investigation, did you detect any violation of policy or statute? And if they say no, you can probably set that aside and move on with your lives. Okay? So it's a really nice shortcut tool. Now, that doesn't mean that the problem goes away. Oftentimes, members of our district, parents, will do a formal complaint because the system didn't meet their need, but it's really a policy fix or it's a procedural fix. It doesn't belong in the complaint process, but they filed a formal complaint, and once they file it, it triggers that whole process, and it can end up at the school board. So may need to use this to differentiate and then pivot in and allow the district staff the space to make those procedural changes. Does that make sense? If at any time you guys have questions, you can always reach out to us. When is the board go executive session?
Never.
Oh, really?
Unless we have a minor that's being considered for dismissal. Expulsion.
Anybody in the room know it?
Expulsion.
Oh, expulsion. Good job. Okay, I'm checking my time. Oh, I've got a little bit of time. Good. Good. Yeah, I'm doing good. Ooh, this is a good scenario. Okay, you guys will like this. I did contentious debate directly over the purpose of school resource officers. One director staunchly opposed independently organized forums and rallied support from students, faculty, and community members to share their concerns, emphasizing the program's potential harm to marginalized groups. This led to emotionally charged public comment sessions during board meetings and a protest outside the district office. Another director leveraged personal relationships to meet privately with the city's mayor and police chief to discuss the SRO program, seeking candid perspectives on its benefits and potential reforms. However, these private discussions have fueled suspicions and perceived lack of transparency Amid the heightened tensions, the superintendent sought to form a task force comprised of district staff, security personnel, students, faculty, and community partners to evaluate the campus security. However, the district has struggled to recruit a representative group due to the polarized atmosphere. All the while, social media amplified the divide with competing narratives and personal attacks eroding trust. Okay, every community has one. What's the Facebook group in the Dalles where all the what is it called?
Either Dub or the unedited Dallas.
There we go. In Corvallis, we have Corvallis happenings, Corvallis people, and then there's a second Corvallis people that has I think you can use profanity. Okay, so we're overachievers. We have multiple ones. Okay, so what's going well?
Nobody was directed to the school board.
Nobody went directly to the school board.
So the director didn't go and try to have an ex parte conversation and try to, just take it directly to the school board. They tried to handle it. Maybe.
Well, no, directors, our school board members, sorry.
Oh!
School board directors. So I'm sorry to clarify, those first two paragraphs, those are school board members.
Sorry, my thought was like, I'm a director, so that was okay, so these are school board members. Oh, never mind. Never mind. Superintendent sought to establish a task force.
Yeah.
Yes.
They didn't post on social media. They didn't start a post.
You're right. I mean, maybe there was something in the first one I didn't get. Is this a plausible scenario?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Highly plausible. It did happen. Well, I mean, not exactly like this, but there were this kind of anything else going well here?
Concern for harm to marginalized groups.
Sure. Yeah, we have at least one director that's focused on our marginalized communities. Yeah, sure.
Community engagement with key organizations.
Hey, we got community engagement across multiple dimensions. We've got minority groups involved. We've got people reaching out to partners at the city. Okay, so that could be. Okay, so let's dogpile. What could be better?
Pretty much everything else.
So, I mean, where's the broken trust here?
Yeah, the board member went off on.
It's the opening paragraph.
To support his viewpoint, his independence.
Divide seems like in the school board itself.
Yeah, school board's fractured probably at this point. Nobody communicated with the superintendent. I mean, why? I mean, this could have been fine if the superintendent was involved. But I mean, if we're meeting independently and we don't have coordination, there's probably some other district staff that should have been in the room in this conversation. Yeah.
The superintendent is creating the same group of people.
Yep.
So it's like, nobody's coordinated.
As they would, yeah.
This is the task force have a budget.
Say it again.
Does the task force have a budget?
I mean, yeah, well, hopefully there would be some sort of budget. Okay, checking my time. I'm just gonna zip it. Any other comments on this one? How we show up really impacts. What's the theme that keeps emerging here? Trust keeps coming up. It's the currency that we operate on, particularly the school board. Trust downward through the organization, trust with your chief executive, and trust with the community. If you lose public trust, you lose the moral authority to govern. And in the worst situations, you will be recalled. Okay?
I was gonna say also.
Yeah.
There's reaction versus being proactive. So you wanna be proactive. And then set a scenario, and then have people join in, as opposed to like, all right, now I'm off guard because I wasn't proactive and I didn't see this coming at the time.
Okay, so.
I think that, the superintendent now has to be, just can't be proactive about it, just reactive, yes, react to all this negativity that's going on with the license. Start the topic and then building first. The scenario and say, hey, this is what we need to work on. How can we work? And get feedback from the community and the students and everything else.
Yeah. So what's the board's actual role here? Not investigating.
Yeah.
Okay, not investigating, but what is the board's role here? Okay. Yeah, I love that. So how do you have that conversation? Because this is controversial. This is being controversial, right? And we can substitute any number of subjects in here. I mean, we had a cell phone ban. Well, a few years ago, we had criminal hygiene policy. Pick your poison. There's a bunch of them out there. So how do you have a conversation? So I love the schools. It's called the focus framework. Actually, I have hard copies in front of me, but we'll just walk through it. So this is how you're absolutely right. Is that we bring that into the superintendent and says, wow, that's wrong. Let's get it on. And maybe that came from the board members, but it should have routed to superintendent, put it on an agenda. We're gonna have a work session, because is there any expectation that school board members have expertise in law enforcement in public schools? No. We're just the public, we're just going to the public, right? So we have to learn before we can make a decision. So I love this system, it's called focus framework. That was the animation I was looking for. So you start on the left side. The first thing you ask is, what are our expectations? I can give you a hard copy. Oh, okay. What are our greatest expectations of local areas for students in the district with regards to our school resource officer program? What do we expect that program to do? What do we want? Probably something like safe schools. But that's a conversation the board needs to have. Okay? Learn together as a leadership team. What information does the board need to ensure best decisions are made? What does the law say? What does the education science say? What does our community, what do our students say? That would be a great thing to do, is have some students come to the workers and tell you what it feels like to have, a law enforcement officer involved. How does that sit with you? I mean, and a broad cross-section. Once you make a decision, you're going to have to create the conditions for success. What does the board need to do to ensure expectations are met? What relationships do you have to build? What revenue do we need? What partnerships? Who do we need to empower? How do we hold the system accountable? And that may be subjective. Maybe we need to survey our kids and track that over time. I don't know, but that's. And then, how are we going to communicate outwardly about it? And this, you can use this for any topic. We just use school resources. Okay, got hard copies. Going to do maybe a couple more. This holds the board in informed oversight. This is all information flowing into the boardroom. And the board, acting as a unified team, practicing unified governance to produce an outcome to support staff and people. Okay? Oh, quick ones. This is board work. Reviewing applications, interviewing selected clients, and making recommendations for hiring in the future. Is that board work?
No.
No. Why?
We're not responsible for hiring.
Is there any expectation of board member has skill in pedagogy or human resources? No. No. Is it appropriate that we ask about hiring practices, or we set expectations on hiring practices? Yeah, sure. How are we recruiting the best possible staff that we can? Are we where we need to be in the labor market? What is our retention rate? Things like that at the system level. Establishing strategic priorities for the school district. Is this board work?
Yeah.
Is it okay if we collaborate with staff in doing that? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We don't collude privately, but we certainly work as a team. This would be a wonderful district-wide leadership team. Reviewing enrollment reports to keep track of the number of students in the district. Is that board work?
Yes.
Yeah. That's important oversight. I love it. Let's see, what time? I want to make sure we have that. So maybe this, and then we'll move on to goal setting. The board is having a discussion at a board meeting, committee members are interrupting the board, accusing some board member that they are not putting the case first in their decision. During public comment, people are regularly going over the 3 minutes a lot of time and identifying people by name. Okay. So how do you feel with that?
Point of order.
Ooh, yeah. Who said point of order? Wonderful. Point of order, and then what's going wrong here?
Well, a lot of things. If you're just talking about the public comment portion with people going over, anybody, I could say chair, point of order, and that's when the chair can re-identify what the policy is and redirect.
Yeah, I mean, we would say point of order to interrupt, so that's the way we interrupt a meeting. The commenter has exceeded their time limit. That is unfair to other people following. And that's why we have the time limit, because you probably put a fixed amount of time for public comment. So if you've only allotted 30 minutes, but you allow someone to take 4 minutes, you've taken up someone else's time. And that's not fair. We don't want to do that. Okay. What about identifying people by name? Again, point of order, but why?
Personnel, privacy, all that.
Yes, absolutely. You're exposing yourself to liability, and yeah, that's confidential information. The board can't evaluate staff in a public meeting. The board can't evaluate staff, period. So, but certainly not the public meeting. We just talked about that. How can the board make the meeting feel heard? Well, then engaging dialogue. Yeah, that's a good question. And I'll give you the answer. It's share the practice. There's this, you can reserve a little time at the end of public comment to reflect themes that occurred in public comment. Another thing that you can do with public comment is report on the complaints that came up, report back on the disposition. Last month, the board heard that there was a complaint about the color of the baseball shed. We met with that parent and that issue's been resolved, or we met with that parent. And so it was obvious. Okay, I'm gonna skip forward to, we're gonna move. So I think so we're gonna pivot to goal setting with the board. Staff, I want to express my immense appreciation for you folks. Thank you.
One more time.
And then board members, come on back to the table. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
People are stopping, disengaging, even with the fun scenarios. We're not kicking you out if you want to.
Enjoy the last bit of your evening.
I know, right? I got some vector trainings.
Oh, I got the email too.
Did you? It's like, oh no.
Well, and I'm the classic, like, I saw the due dates, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna like push till
I got time.
like 10/1, got it. I've got till the end of September.
I'm not really pushed yet.
And you're never through.
I know. It's like, otherwise, I get into meetings. That's fantastic. People are like, no, I can't. I was trying to say.
I know.
guys have done a great job today. Thank you. Okay, so goals. Goals is something that we deal with frequently and often. I mean, it's central to the work that we do. And we use these terms, district goals and superintendent goals. I think you guys understand those. And then there's board goals. And oftentimes we get board goals and district goals confused. So hopefully we'll work through that. So the district goals are, what happened there? Anyway. What you can barely read. Sorry, there's a number of the slides that didn't display right. Okay, so board goals. So this is my diagram to help kind of describe the components of a strategic document. So at the top, we have our vision and mission. So that's where we want to go, what we believe we want to achieve, and how we're going to, what we're going to do that. Below that are values. Those are those things that are essential and if violated, prevent the organization from achieving its vision or mission. Okay. Below that are goals, those are things that we're going to try to achieve. And then within that, or under that, is strategies, and actions and measures. The top is really about the why we're doing it. The goals are the what, and then the how is the operations component. So as board members, we're interested in the what and the why. What are we going to do and why are we doing it? The how is all the districts. So one of the coolest things about being on a school board is you can dream up all this great inspirational stuff, and you have a superintendent that has to figure out how to actually do it. I'm sorry, I'm being facetious, but I mean, so but those are district goals. And when we talk about district goals, this is what we're talking about. What are those things that we need to achieve to move the needle for kids? So these are going to be academic goals. They're going to be things around social emotional learning and student wellness. It's going to be things around staffing, staff retention, things around facilities. What are those things that we got to do in very broad terms we need to achieve our vision? Next, superintendent goals. So these are rooted in professional performance. This is what the superintendent's going to focus their attention on over the course of a year. I should back up. These district goals are usually on a longer time horizon, 3 to 5 years. Okay. Superintendent goals usually have an annual time horizon, but they may be carried over years. Okay. They should align with the district's strategic priorities. Everything we do should align with district priorities. And they're also developed collaboratively between the board and the superintendent. That's because you're in an employer-employee relationship. So the 8 of you are working together to support the board. Okay? Board goals really are more akin to superintendent goals than they are district goals. So they're your professional goals. What are you going to focus your attention on? Okay, so again, they're going to be aligned to district priorities, but they're about your own growth and learning. What in practice are you going to change? What are you going to learn this year? And what are those key initiatives the board is going to work on this year? Usually a year time horizon, but you can carry them across multiple years. I mean, I think when I was on the Corvallis board, one of our goals was community engagement for like 3 years running because it was work that we needed to do as a board. Okay? So, we're not dealing with district goals tonight. We're dealing with board goals. We need to know what this board needs to do. Now, earlier, the board, enumerated strengths and areas of growth. So our goal in the next 15 minutes, we've already got a really good jump start on it, is 3 to 5 things that you're going to work on. So we need to condense this down into work that you're going to do. So I think there's going to be some, definitely, I can move forward. swing team. I want everybody to be able to. What if I put it over there? So I'm gonna read it to you. You want to work on collaboration. I think it's going to be natural. I think if you do this work, you're going to be able to achieve that. Work on that. I put down this is technical aspects of K-12 education. I noted that that is more, you want more professional development. I'm just going to pose a question to the team. What's your appetite for adding work sessions? Do you have work sessions before, after your regular meetings, or?
We have some that are scheduled, that are around like the data review, like student achievement data review.
How many do you have?
We have one scheduled for November, and then another one in the spring, and then in between that, there's another more like comprehensive, technical K-12 stuff in the middle of that.
Yeah.
How long are those work sessions? A couple hours, they for?
About 2 or 3 hours.
2 or 3 hours.
I was
What?
just looking at this and seeing that we're hoping, like, the top 2 things that we listed was collaboration and building trust. You can't really do that without more communication, more
table time.
Yeah, just being able to look each other in the eye more and have those conversations. And so not necessarily to make it a goal, but can we have that shared expectation, that buy-in, that we need to spend more time together in these work sessions and have them more regularly?
Yeah. I mean, social capital, I'm using the sociology term, social capital is kind of interpersonal connections. Is built by doing the hard things together. You see the highest levels of social capital in groups where people depend on each other for their very lives. Military, law enforcement, fire service, those types of folks. Really high levels of social capital. Okay, so that's what you're talking about, Bill. And the only way you can do that, well, I mean, you can do it lots of different ways. We can do it artificially. We can do trust falls. I'm not a big fan. I don't think that really builds real social capital. I think you have to just do the work together.
Right. You have to have the hard conversations.
Yeah. So I think in the course of engaging with your superintendent and district staff and learning this technical K-12 stuff, I think you're going to build a lot of social capital, with each other, because you're going to hear the questions that you're all asking. You're also going to build social capital with your staff very rapidly because you're showing interest. Okay. What technical things are you around board work are you feeling the least secure? I mean, do you want to review how you're structuring your meetings? Do you want to go for public meeting law?
The thing I've heard in conversations like from summer conference and stuff is, I think most people refer to as KPIs, but it's all the longitudinal growth performance targets, right? And the education E's. But I think a lot of that comes with the 3 learning bullets, right? There's just understanding K-12 in general. There's the district and the community understanding. And then just understanding more about the district itself. So we got the district ops down there. So like it seems like this initial year of us being a new group of 7, there's just a lot of learning. And even to an extent, I would say that the word learning applies to the first 2 bullet points, right? We're learning about each other, how we work with each other. Like it's all learning to me at the end of the day. And the other 2 learns, learn district and local challenges and learn district. All the learning kind of goes together in my mind.
The metrics are learning. What am I measuring? What am I looking at?
Yep.
What does it mean?
Yeah.
How do I compare
That's part of the learning.
How do I understand it?
And once we see the numbers, what do they mean? And
And then what program is it tied to and why? I think the metric is a great fun starting place to elucidate a lot of things, about what people. Yes.
So it sounds like you really want to focus on technical education stuff, like assessment literacy.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And data
if
literacy.
that's what it means for students to succeed and more of them to read, then yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How, because if we can't, if we can't measure it, then why would we make a decision on or guidance about it, or a new policy, or new direction, or new vision, if we have no idea what it is?
And I think what feeds into that is the attendance. The kids, the students aren't here for the duty. They're not gonna.
Right.
Yeah, can't teach them if they're not there
Right.
physically.
We need to develop different policies around attendance, just imagining then your reaction. But I don't think it happens in a regular board, it has to happen in a board meetings or social, regular meetings or social structure.
Yes.
And so.
They're not conducive
Yeah,
to
so you
that.
have to have a work session, and go, okay, how does it work? What is it? To even decide what the metrics will be. Yeah.
So the other thing I think I don't know, I'm checking, looking with the superintendent. Have you presented integrated, you board members, they haven't seen integrated guidance yet, have they?
They've seen it just as like, I've dropped it in the weekend, they can access it and see it, but we've not.
I looked at the link for the first time, printed some of it out, and tried to get a working knowledge of what's integrated guidance, what is the innovations thingamajig, not the innovations, the other one.
Intensive
The
program.
intensive program, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of things, extra things like that, in addition to just the whole basic activities that are going on. One of these programs did a special education assessment, which I understand is completed. I was like, whoa, I'd love to see that. And, even to be able to go out in the world and say, yeah, they did a special education assessment. They're making recommendations about it. So that would be cool.
Actually, I have to this program. So I'll just say I was working with the Whitburn board isn't exactly the same situation. They're a 5-member board, but they have a large. I have a list that we developed of key learning. So I'm starting to write these down. I'm writing down the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's like assessment literacy, which is, do you guys use STAR? iReady. So, and I know that I'm speaking jargon. They're intermediate assessments is what they are.
Yeah.
They're ones taken in the fall, winter, and spring.
Right.
And as opposed to somewhat of assessment at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But this is all technical stuff that you guys need to be level set on.
Exactly, yeah, and we have the spring numbers, right? And then maybe there are other metrics, like maybe each school has a metric. I know talking to Dawn at Innovations, you can't measure what goes on out there the same way and understand their success. Maybe that school has a little personal metric that they get to share, and then that they're moving the needle out there. And that's something maybe in a work session that you asked Donna, hey, come up with some metrics that help us know things are going the way she hopes they're going. Behavior, is that behavior amongst us?
No, student behavior.
Oh, data.
Data.
Yeah, that's good.
Social emotional learning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of brainstorming, what is it that you need to learn in the first year?
The budgeting and the financial literacy
Yeah,
side.
we're going to be doing budgeting, we're going to be doing a superintendent review process. It starts in the spring. We're going to.
That's something that I can help with.
Yeah, because we learned about that, right? OSBA. You got to do this, you got to do that.
I should steal first one.
Yeah.
Oh, Jackie Olsen's like. So did all? Yeah, that's right. All three of you.
The four of us here did.
Yeah, we're SBC. So you saw that session.
We have a problem in the Dalles. There's 4 of us got elected, right? And so we got a lot of feedback during an election, and it really boiled down to trust, I think. hard to figure out because there's, pot stirrers or disgruntled people talking one day and then the story grows and it's, so there seems to be, and we haven't been able to pass the bond, blaming the conservatives, just all kind of messiness around the bond that then seems to have flowed down into the perceptions of the district. And so how do we rebuild trust? I mean, the whole thing is rebuilding trust among ourselves, and then as a board, and then the district staff and whatever, and they build trust, and then it's got to go out to the community at some point because it's not good out there. Certain groups of people.
So and to that point, you've talked about engaging community in this progress, but and then
district challenges.
Yeah. So that's another place.
It's a local challenge. There's a local challenge.
So what is the board going to do?
Yeah, exactly. What is it?
So maybe that's what it is.
That is a local challenge, the perception of the district. And I think it is tied to the fact that the bonds aren't passing.
Well, I mean, I think in my perspective is that it boils down to just the central topic of communication, right? I think someone earlier tonight said that, you can look at the socials and everything, right? Other people are telling the story of the district, not the district telling the story of the district, right?
Other people who don't know the story tell the story.
I think, in a lot of the informal conversations we had tonight with staff, you hear the small little stories of the positive things happening within the buildings. However, that's a small group that gets to, right? It doesn't have that large reach, and it's another kind of extension of just our communication out. I think we've done some improvements from where we were, say, 6 years ago to now, but we still have that problem of, for a lot of different topics, the stories being told for us because we're not out in front of it. Now, I also recognize that it's a challenge in this era at which the pace of information and data is out there, right? And that isn't a central nor core function of what we do as a district. However, we have to compete in the space at some level, right?
Well, I'm thinking about when we went to Poland. One of the things that we did, and it was real vital, was information operations and communicating to the local population, because we were uniformed soldiers in an allied country. We had to keep ahead of communication.
You got to be on top.
Yeah, and
ahead of it.
Communicate. So we used a lot of social media to engage the community and kind of put information out there and keep it moving.
So you've identified people already. I mean, I'm starting with that line, which is color coding to keep it organized. But a bunch of things are related to technical learning. What is capable of education? How do we measure it? Okay. So that's going to be a big piece. Your superintendent's going to take the lead on that.
Yeah.
You have another piece that's really around this learning, what's going on in the community. How is this board going to come together and communicate and engage community? That's a big conversation. There's a lot of moving parts to that. And it's going to require some social capital to work through that. I mean, what do you guys even mean by community engagement? What's that looking for this board? So that's a whole conversation.
There are standard outlets, and then there's social media, right?
Correct. And then I think you have to be in all.
Yeah. And some of us are better than others. Some than others. Like I'm no good at social media, but David's pretty good.
That coupled with people consume information with different media.
Yeah.
So now just taking a step back and thinking about key roles of the board. I mean, there's finance and oversight. I mean, you have a new CFO.
Yeah.
That's a conversation that you can have and probably will need to have about what is your financial reporting will look like and that sort of thing. But it's largely a district side thing. It'll be a conversation. The other big piece that's board work for you guys is your superintendent.
Yeah.
What's that process going to look So I'm curious if the board would like support with that.
Sure, I mean, we learned about the targeted, assess, whatever it
Targeted
is.
feedback survey.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's good time for that because of the local challenges, to reach out into those stakeholders and get their feedback. They'll feel good about that. And, maybe we leave them meet a little bit before spring. Or whatever comes back isn't all this negativity and it really is confined to a few people. I don't know.
I'm noting the time, we're at time, but that's a lot. What we've already identified is a lot.
Yeah.
Is there anything a board member feels we gotta get done this year?
I mean, it is a lot. I think someone mentioned it, but we obviously have kind of coupled with the community side of things, the challenge of trying to get a bond to do something with our infrastructure and buildings. But it is a lot already, and that's a monumental effort.
Right, and I personally, a lot of us feel like there's no point in talking about a bond until we can rebuild the trust. Because you have to rebuild the foundation.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would add would be a board self-assessment.
Oh, yeah.
Unless, Kevin, you have something.
Well, we're talking about 50 years of kind of a lack of trust. It goes back that far. and yeah, so I don't know if you're aware, but we've had like 3 changes in our logo. We've been the Dallas High Indians to Tonka Eagles to the Dallas Tonka Eagles to what are we now? Riverhawks. They called us the hyphenators in Portland.
Okay.
In the Oregonian before the Oregonian kind of went under. So to me, it's like we've got to do some community parties of some sort. And maybe I'm kind of off track, but I'm on the Hall of Fame board for the Dallas High School in Wetumpka, and we filled Civic Auditorium. I mean, for an awards night. So we've got a tremendous amount of alums that care, but we've kind of lost touch with them a little bit.
That would be a good audience to engage, wouldn't it?
It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's big, and we do it every year.
Oh,
and
look at that.
If we had events like, I don't know, what did you guys do in Salem?
I was on the Corvallis board.
Corvallis, how did you engage with your community? I mean, to me, it's like a lot of pizza and beer. I don't know.
We actually pushed out, we partnered with we had our district team and we pushed out into communities. A lot of what we did was just sitting down with people and getting tables like this. And you have 4 parents and a district staff member or 4 parents and a board member with a laptop getting input on whatever we were working on. So a lot of it, we did charrettes, which is a style of facilitating conversation, build solution. There was a lot of face-to-face work. That was the one that we really pushed into because we wanted to get really detailed voice. We have, I don't know if you guys have a public schools foundation, but our foundation did a lot of the work that
we do have a foundation.
We do have a net foundation.
But the work that we were doing was definitely technical in nature. We were developing programs, working on programs.
I have a question about how board goals can integrate. So like part of what Betsy is saying about like getting more specific feedback from the community partners and stakeholders. If we know pretty like with almost 100% assurance, like what definitely is a concern in the community, and it's more of an operational thing, how can we as a board impact that with our goals? So I'll just give you the scenario. So a really big concern within the community is the class sizes at the elementary school and the lack of like classroom support, like classroom aides at the elementary school. So for instance, there could be 30 kids in one classroom. There's no designated aide anymore. So 6 or 7 years ago, there was at one elementary school that I know specifically because I had a kid there, there was a designated aide in each kindergarten classroom plus 4 more instructional aides that were not designated in a classroom, but they were like roaming for first through fifth grade. And that looks a lot different now. And there is less designated support, and our classrooms have gotten bigger. And that's a real genuine concern for parents. So as a board, how do we navigate that? Because it's more operational, but it's something that we have to fix.
Yeah, so you can track staffing ratios. That could be a metric. And then you're also engaging your teaching and learning team. They're coming in and talking about how they're navigating it and why, it's probably resource related.
Sure, but how do we evaluate and prioritize our resources so that that's not just so that we can have somebody from teaching and learning to say, like, I'm going in 10% more to give this person more support, and I hope it makes them feel better. That's not adequate. To me as a board member, that's not adequate. Getting the metric, having somebody tell me I'm doing something, like, that's not, how are we getting our class sizes down and our student-facing resources with a designated classroom aide in each kindergarten classroom? How are we achieving that within the next year or two?
Is that a budget thing? Is that budgeting from the classroom up?
So that's a budget conversation, but it's probably a conversation that needs to happen right about this time of year because, they'll start doing roll-ups here, in the coming weeks. We'll start planning for next year. So if you want to have that conversation, then when you get into these technical conversations and you notice that your superintendent is perfectly right and she's listening to you, okay? So she knows it's something that you're interested in. So they can have a conversation about why is our staffing level the way it is? How are we compensating for a large class size? And what can we expect going forward? Okay, but that's a conversation you have to have with the district team.
Well, I'd also like to understand how big that is. So, like, my own kindergartner, there is a teacher aide, and they're right around 20 kids. So, like, I don't see
I think it's different at different schools.
Agreed. So that's what I mean. Like, we have to think big picture, right? So, to me, it's important to understand, like, is it a singular building? Like, take Colonel Wright, for example. We know that they're physically constrained with the space there. That's why we have Dry Hollow and Chenoweth with the larger populations, because they physically have more space.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing that a lot of folks in the community don't understand as well, how our facilities impact things like classroom ratios and size, is like we're over capacity at every building.
Right.
We have modulars everywhere with the exception of the high school, and that's a little tricky because now we've used what should be storage spaces and other, functions and made them into instructional spaces because we need it, right? And we've also made use of CGCC for additional classroom space. And I think that's a tough thing that folks don't see unless you're in the buildings and have a good understanding. But like, we have some physical constraints in addition to resources too, that like it's part of this large puzzle that you got to fit.
Sure. But it's not going to get any better without having like hard conversations, strategic
Agreed.
planning, like more.
And there's not a singular lever in many instances.
So you're asking the right questions.
Yeah.
The key, I think, probably it sounds like there's multiple issues that new members on the board want to surface that you guys have picked up. You might consider some work session time to just kind of get those topics out, or for goodness sakes, you could probably just write the superintendent an email, just get it all out, and then what you might do is compile that all together and say, here's all the topics. You'll end up with it because you're the chair, you're going to be choosing which logs go on the fire. And start doing some agenda planning for this year and probably into next year. There's a lot here, a lot of board work here.
Oh, for sure. And I think, Katie hit on the big one there, which is part of the trust story, is that there used to be a very lean, small administrative group. And then, and since Carolyn's been here, it's grown. In part, they just probably ran it too lean, didn't maybe have a lot of vision to do programs and whatnot. And now there's a lot of people. And so the community looks at that, looks at their class of 30 children with no aid and says you're top heavy at the administrative level, and they don't understand other than their kids not getting served.
So that's another, you know, you can go back and take a look at the budget and see, and then look at administrative, you know, portion of administration versus the rest of the organization. There's different ways to look at that. And then the superintendent can explain her staffing decisions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what was the rationale? Why do we have folks at the district office?
Right, and we understand some of it grant funded. But then there's a point where the grant dries up, then what? You know, what's the plan for attrition there?
Yeah. We're 12 minutes over. Okay, so I've identified four things. One, technical learning. The other is really community engagement. What's that going to look like? How are we going to start building trust with the community? Superintendent evaluation, a robust superintendent evaluation process this year. And then I would recommend a board self-assessment. So you can hold the superintendent evaluation hold yourself. And then kind of pull it up there. How are you guys feeling about it? I get a thumb. Got a thumb. This thumb. Good. I will write this up. So board development plan for you. And then Carolyn, I'll pull that list that I've drafted for you as well. And you help you walk that out. But I think you have a good idea where you're going. But yeah, so the technical stuff, your superintendent and district team are going to teach you that. If you, I can build a plan for around community engagement.
Yeah, we need a plan.
Yeah.
Really talking about what does that look like for you? There's, you know, you have ideas, different ideas. Start pulling that together.
And metrics.
That's part of that technical piece.
Okay.
The metrics, there's gobs of metrics. So many. Don't overwhelm your superintendent.
Right.
Well,
Pick good ones.
knowing what good metrics are that aren't overly burdensome.
Yeah. So I would really focus on, you know, just getting yourselves on a firm foundation this year. And then next year, start turning your attention towards what do we need to do in the future? Start and consider having that conversation. It was really impressive seeing your staff here. Clearly, they are willing to be here and work with you. They want to work with you. So, I mean, that's a great opportunity.
How do we work with them?
We honor them.
We just honor them in their conversations, but we can't really work with them, but we work with Carolyn.
No, we do with work sessions. We can.
We can?
Yeah.
Okay, bring them in and talk to them. Okay,
Yeah, so
thank you
when
for
you,
helping.
when you start thinking about when was the last time you guys did strategic planning?
What we do next year to start for the next 5 years of strategic plan.
Right, so
Yeah.
there you go, next
Building
year.
year to
So
prepare for
today, this year, it's really about getting a firm foundation, because you're gonna do planning next year, so you can get your level set. Okay, I go back to the chair. I'm gonna sit down and be quiet.
Thank you, Vince, for coming all the way out
Yeah,
and
thank
spending
you.
time with us.
Very much.
Very interesting. We'll have a lot to reflect on. Thanks for being the staff. It was interesting to be able to talk to them, of course.
Yeah, that's great.
Only time we can, or whatever safe space to do it. We'll look forward to that. Vince, thank you. Any other
Next
comments
week.
from the board members?
I think one takeaway that I had from tonight's discussion is that we need more working groups.
Yeah, work sessions.
Work sessions.
Yeah, I've always felt like that. It's like, I can't, there's big gaps in time between the meeting, and you're just like, I don't know what's happening. And so, yeah,
That's something we can talk about as well.
yeah.
Abstract.
I'm a broken record at this point, but
What are you gonna say?
I've been an advocate for work sessions.
Oh, that's lovely.
Other
I didn't know that was it.
So
Imagine that.
other districts, meet twice a month.
Yeah, regularly.
Twice a month, a work session with a business meeting,
Yeah,
and we've just, I'll just say that.
well, good. That's good to
It's
hear.
late.
Thank you. Katie, anything?
I guess is everybody open to that? Like
Yeah.
spending more time?
Our biggest challenge will be scheduling.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Renata.
Thank you.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
That's a
Kevin?
big deal, guys. Go.
You retired. You got time?
I'm living the dream.
Yeah, you are. So there you go. We're going to be part of your dreams. Okay, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
You guys are awesome.
Thank you for coming.
Ken,
pleasure.
lovely.
Sorry, I gotta
Thanks
run,
for having
Betsy.
me.
My kid's bedtime is in 10.